Bayern Munich hopes to get past Holstein Kiel on Wednesday the 13th of January in their second round matchup of the DFB Cup as they seek to defend their title.
Alaba! Brilliant free kick from the Austrian!
It's another must-watch match you cannot afford to miss on Wednesday the 13th of January from 10:45 p.m. live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1.
Enda pale kwa Palume. Wakenya. Kari ndio hii. Oh, sorry, kifungu ndio hii kari. Ni furaha ile niko nayo. Msichali kete. Wacha tupeane mali ya wenyewe.
Ni vizuri tupe watu vitu zao.
Kuja uchukue mali yako. Kuja uchukue mali yako. Hiyo ndio shamra.
Hiyo ndio shamra ya quick bid.
Umeona? Umeamini?
Nimeamini kabisa.
Hii inaitwa nini?
Hii inaitwa kifungu.
Na hii inaitwa nini?
Toyota Probo.
Toyota Pro. Mpatie kifungu hiyo.
Shika ingine. Ndio ya kuendesha.
Onesha.
Na wewe unaitwa nani?
Naitwa Steven.
Steven nani?
Kahuho.
Nakwambia uliwekelea bid ya ngapi brother?
1772 peke yake.
We. Na ndio amejishindia Pro Box. Sasa hii Pro Box inakusaidia aje?
Itakuwa inanisaidia kazi yangu ya kuuza matunda.
Unaambia je watu wa kwenye nyumbani ambao watakuona na hii?
Wote wacheze na quick bid. Ukweli.
Ni ukweli.
Kabisa.
Sasa tufanyie vizuri. Ingia upate mizigo yako bana. Ingia utoshee ukae usikie. Inakutosha sawa? Sisi tulikwambia ni aje? Bidhaa bora kwenye bei ya chini. Bidhaa bora kwenye bei ya chini.
Jiunga na Quick Bid ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bid yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16. Kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bid yako pia kwenye www.quickbid.co.ke. Kumbuka, bid ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio hununua. Quick Bid, bidhaa bora.
Good morning, and thank you so much for being a part of Good Morning Kenya this Monday. Welcome to the program. My name is Samuel Njoroge. On this day, that we shall be having eye on politics, and we shall be discussing some of the political statements that have been made over the past 7 days of concern to us, or of key interest to us. During our conversation is the presidential speech during the burial of Musalia Mudavadi's mother, that is Hannah Mudavadi. And we'll be talking about this rain that the president talked about. You know what he said? Ukiona simba amenyeshewa, usikadhani ni paka. So we'll be getting to understand ni mvua gani imekuwa ikinyeshea prezo, and why. And what is the way forward? And we do welcome your voice and your opinion during that conversation. Hashtag Good Morning Kenya at KBC Channel 1 and at Sam W. Njoroge. Thank you so much for making time. My name is Samuel Njoroge. And of course, they just had to switch to Jane. Hata kabla sijamaliza. Yani Jane.
As in, you're too dramatic.
Drama who?
Drama you.
Drama where?
There.
Drama why?
Here.
Talk to me. How you doing?
I am good, man. How are you?
Mimi niko safi.
Just understand that we are low-key judging your Kiswahili here.
You're low who?
Good morning. Welcome to the program. Kama kawaida, thoroughly glad that you chose to start your morning with us right here on Good Morning Kenya. I am Jane Wambui. Kama kawaida, we are happy that you are with us, and of course, such a dope show coming up in not too long. As always, every Monday we get to have a conversation revolving around the family, and today we're going to be having a psychologist joining us in studio, and he is one who majorly focuses on children, just to try and understand how our children are faring given most of them are back to school. How are they adjusting to this new norm, having to always put on masks, having to always wash their hands? It's something that, you know, we've always talked about, but now that they have to do it, how they have to just maintain the social distance in school, what is the psychological consequence that all these new protocols and health guidelines is going to take on them? We welcome you as a parent to share with us your thoughts, your experiences so far. How have your children been, you know, responding to this new norm that they are in right now? And what even you as a parent feel in regards to all this? The hashtag ever remains Good Morning Kenya on Twitter at KBC Channel 1 is the official station handle. But ray of sunshine.
Okay.
Good morning.
And she has the nerve to call me dramatic. I know. Hi, Ray.
It's a Monday. Good morning. Glad that you made time to be with us this morning. While my colleagues are all lit, I don't know what they were up to over the weekend, but Regina Manyara Miss is glad that you have me on board.
Yes.
Regina
I know.
Manyara Miss.
Yes. Underline the miss.
By then, can we revisit the cool, calm, collected conversation?
But I am.
Yeah.
Anyway, now.
Courtesy of JD.
Oh, Asante.
Job description.
Yani, the director doesn't want to see me on screen the way I'm looking, you know.
First of all, you look bright. We love the yellow.
You look ravishing, Regina.
Oh, she looks what again? Na hiyo brush imewekelewa hapa. I know there are so many viewers who would want to be that brush this morning. Lakini tunachukua hiyo montage.
Nameless.
Tunachukua hiyo montage alafu turudi na in the headlines. Let's do this, director. Right, let's begin in the headlines this morning, and I have a copy of The Star, which bears the headline, Ruto tells Uhuru to stop the blackmail. What has inspired this? It's his speech during Hannah Mudavadi's burial on over the weekend, where the president said that probably time has come for us to support another tribe to the presidency. And political pundits have been arguing that this could have been an indirect endorsement of Musalia Mudavadi for the top seat come 2022. And that has inspired the headline with a Star this morning, as the president said it's time to support candidates outside Mount Kenya and Kalenjin community. That story is on page 6 of the Star this morning. Also highlighted on the front page, Kiambu murder suspect says he was inspired by, listen to this, Killing Eve. That series. He just ruined it for us. But it's okay. Page 2 of the Star has that story covered in earnest. Also highlighted on the front page, residents use basins as toilets, fearing attacks by stray elephants. What's happening in Kerio Valley, guys? KWS, there's a concern right here. People have used basins now, have turned basins into toilets, because they don't want to go out for a short or long call, lest they be met by an elephant right in the middle of a call of nature. Page 3 of the Star has that story for you. Reinstate our members or we reject BBI. That is the voice of the Kenya National Union of Teachers. I'll be telling you all about it when I get to page 7 of this particular copy. And as far as the opinion pieces are concerned, Gwaine Dyer has this to say: vaccines, one shot now, one shot much later. It's all about COVID-19, and I'll be letting you know what has inspired this particular line of thought. Now, something happened in Mombasa yesterday, but it was a ray of sunshine. It was a pocket of sunshine, because what was expected to happen did not happen. And that story is captured in form of a photo on the front page of the Star this morning. A driver survives as bus plunges into the sea at Likoni Channel, but the best thing is that it never actually sank. All right? Efforts were made and he was rescued. Isn't that good news? Cindy? So that story is on page 9 of the Star. I'll be giving you all the details once I get there. Again, that is the front page of this particular daily with me right here. Over to you, ladies. What do you have for us in as far as the different copies are concerned?
Now, talking about what is happening in the political scene, well, the front page of the Standard has various quotes there, including a quote from President himself, President Uhuru Kenyatta, and Uhuru and DP clash. Why that particular statement that the president said, and you mentioned there, Sam, that might be, or rather some people are interpreting it being that an endorsement of Musalia Mudavadi. And if I can quote what we have here on the Standard, and this is a question by Susan Kihika, quite controversial. Did they discover that it has been 2 communities leading Kenya? The noble thing would have been for Uhuru to decline the presidency in 2013 after Kibaki. On the other hand, Raila Odinga has been quoted in this issue of the Standard this morning saying, "We are all hustlers. Kenyatta, Jaramogi, Kibaki, Moi were all hustlers. I was imprisoned and I was only known by my prison number. All we want is to unite the country." That is, battle lines seem to be drawn in the political scene, and it has found its way on the front page of the Standard. We're going to be giving you details in regard to that issue as captured by KBC Channel 1 News Desk. Then also on the front page is, "I have no regret," says Kangata. Remember the letter of fury that, threw spanners into the works in as far as Jubilee is concerned? Well, the author of that particular letter says he has nothing about. No regrets whatsoever. Then sad statistics in a new study that has been made public by KEMRI indicates that Western Kenya's children are at risk. And this has to do with HIV infections. There's a whole report there that has been captured, and we're going to be talking about at a time when we're looking at the health of our nation. Now, this report indicates that in Western Kenya, the lives of girls and children are at risk there, as well as women in regard to the HIV infections, at a time when, I don't know if you have seen this on social media, but it has clearly made its way on mass media, is that we have the demonic games back targeting children. I'm going to be giving you details of this and so much more as we focus on what has been making headlines in the last 24 hours. And if you're wondering what game I'm talking about, it has to do with a game that goes by the name Charlie Charlie. That and so much more will be coming up in not too long.
Right, now before we get to those details, let's have a look at what the front page of the Daily Nation has for us this morning. A quick look at how it is looking like this morning. The big read there in regards to the happenings over the weekend after Uhuru, and now in a bold red font. Ruto warns against focusing political conversation on tribes, and this one continues to say that the succession race shapes up and centered on the President Kenyatta's apparent political divorce from Deputy President William Ruto. This is after the head of state's declaration that the presidency is not a preserve of only 2 communities. Details of all this will be coming up in not too long. Eyes on the prize. We have a few candidates, potential presidential candidates, who have been pictured here in. But one key interesting story that has been given prominence here on the front page of the Daily Nation is in regards to keeping nursing mothers in school, looking at issues to do with special meals and bathrooms, as a county like Nandi reported that 10,000 girls, yes, fell pregnant during this COVID break, and most of them have not been able to report back to school. I'll be giving you details of that story in not too long. And also finally looking at what will be happening in Uganda in this week, 3 days to the elections, and the big question remains, Museveni or change? Details coming up in not too long. Sam.
Okay, umesema Sam alafu akaweka re.
It's not Sam.
Okay.
Just so we're clear.
Just so we're clear.
Yeah.
Gathoni, thank you so much for watching the show this morning. You're asking me, hey, this year tutaonana ama huna connections, usijali, nitakutafuta. All right, takutafta. And thank you so much for watching the show. Now, let me get into the front page of the Star and explain the headline, all right? Because Ruto now apparently is telling Uhuru to stop the blackmail. And this has been inspired by the president's words during the burial of the late Hannah Mudavadi. May her soul continue resting in peace. And the Star has gotten into the details of Uhuru's sort of plan to deflate Ruto's dream to get to the State House in 2022. That has been explained on page 5 of the Star this morning, Uhuru's strategy. And the first move is to have Raila Odinga, Musalia Mudavadi, and Kalonzo Musyoka reading from the same script, okay? They remain united. And then next, get out in person to the central region and explain to them what BBI has in store for them. After that, he's going to cobble a political team to counter any anti-BBI propaganda. And what the latest research talks about, I'm talking about research that has been conducted in the country in as far as the BBI and succession politics is concerned, that 84% of Kenyans are not familiar with the content of the BBI and its proposals. Also, majority want referendum on BBI held before the next general election. Also moving on is that 29% would vote yes for this particular document or constitutional amendments. 32% would vote no. 26% would not vote at all. These are the people hawatamka asubuhi. They will not participate in this exercise. If at all, this particular poll is anything to go by, conducted by TIFA, by the way. And 16% are not sure. They are the crystallizers. They've not yet made their opinion in as far as this particular document is concerned. 46% prefer to vote yes or no on each specific proposal. That is, have a multiple question referendum, while 37% prefer to vote yes or no for the entire set of the proposals in the document. And 16% are still not sure. They have no opinion on whether or not they would like a one-question referendum, or a multiple question referendum. That is just an outline of some of the details that have been captured by the Star this morning. Remember, this will be a conversation that we'll be having at 8 a.m. with the panel, just getting to understand the intrigues behind these statements that were made by the president over the weekend, and of course, what that means for the political hemisphere moving forward. Right, Regina?
Indeed, now that you've posed that question on BBI, and it is also running around, rather just within what is happening in, the political scene, when we have the backlash, or rather the clash between Uhuru and the deputy president, and we're seeing different factions, pro-deputy president, pro-president, so much is happening, and then the question of the BBI. Now, there's a report that was prepared by Wycliffe to just put these matters into perspective. Exactly what did the president say during that burial, and how then is it shaping our political scene? And I know you're going to be having this conversation, Sam, and there's so many questions coming around. I'd really want to hear what your guests this morning are going to be saying about what the president said. But before we get to hear what your panel is going to be discussing, how about we have a listen into that report prepared by Wycliffe in regard to what President Uhuru Kenyatta had to say during that burial ceremony.
The president, who was accompanied by former Prime Minister Raila Odinga and Chief of Defense Forces General Robert Kibochi, also inspected the ongoing construction of the 415 million shillings Jomo Kenyatta Stadium in Mamboleo, which is 65% complete. The president expressed satisfaction with the progress made in the construction of the sports complex, but encouraged the contractor to ensure the facility is ready for use by April this year. At the Kisumu port, the president was briefed on the progress of the new shipyard facility being constructed by the Kenyan military. On his way back to Nairobi, President Kenyatta overflew and inspected the ongoing rehabilitation of the Nairobi to Western Kenya meter gauge railway. The old railway line is being rehabilitated from Longonot to Kisumu and Malaba respectively. The president will then make a stopover at the Naivasha Inland Container Depot, where Kenya Railways is laying a new 24-kilometer railway line to link the new standard gauge railway with the rehabilitated MGR. The MGR is being rehabilitated by a multi-agency team led by the Kenya Defence Forces as part of a broad government strategy to consolidate the country's position as the leading trade gateway to the East African hinterland. Weekly for Cage, Channel 1 News.
Clearly that was Kisumu and not during the burial there of Mudavadi's mother there, that is Hannah. May her soul continue resting in peace. This was actually a tour of an inspection of the ongoing national government development projects in Kisumu County. At a time when some have been talking about, what the president said, that it's a high time that, and if I can quote what he said, if that, quote, dynasty narrative is a thinking or logic, then I can also stand and say that it is only two communities that have ruled Kenya. Maybe it's a high time we give time to others we give others to rule. Time to give others to rule. Yes, that's what he said. That's what has been quoted here. Kenya has many communities. I don't know. Maybe we should invite your feedback as a viewer. What do you think the president really meant in those utterances? We'll be keeping tabs on what happens, especially in the political scene, and as we proceed to look at those stories that are making headlines in the last 24 hours.
All right, let's get to this story that is on the front page of the Daily Nation in regards to keeping nursing mothers in school. And different counties have been having different approaches to just try and contain the situation. But looking at this particular piece, and this came also, this new intake came as a result of the alert that was sent out by the Ministry of Education in partnership with the Ministry of Health and Security and Interior Security, saying that, if you are a parent who is still having the child at home, whether they are expectant and you chose to keep them home, you better take them back to school or you risk arrest. So following that alert, many girls have reported back to school, and some schools have put in place measures to help thousands of girls who got pregnant during this long break and teen mothers return back to their studies. A few counties have been listed here, so I'm just going to be highlighting what some of them have done. You can be able to read this story in proper detail. It's on the back page of the Daily Nation. Looking at a county like Homa Bay, they are said to have put up a psychological support center at Dhiwa town to counsel students who with learning challenges, including pregnant young girls and teenage mothers. They will also offer boys who abandoned their books and turned to income-generating activities. In Migori, they say that some schools have made arrangements to provide special meals for the nursing mothers. And this is what Kamsaki Girls Secondary School principal had to say, that they plan to meet the special dietary needs for expectant mothers in their school. We also have St. Albert's Olanda Girls, who are said to have put in place a policy for antenatal care for expectant learners. The principal went on to say that they have equipped the school with special bathrooms, as well as offering supervision and guidance for these young ladies. And also they have a counseling department that has been put in place. In Kisii County, at a school like Kereri Girls have partnered with Ram Hospital to give specialized attention to pregnant students. And these were the words of their principal at that particular school. In Kericho County, there was a teacher who chose to not be made public, but they say that they're having challenges when it comes to taking care of young mothers who have babies, and especially when it comes to the boarding institutions. He went on to say that some learners who gave birth are being forced to live with their babies at home, and those who are able to go to school are told to either go with them to school or not go to school at all. Those were his words. And one last county that has been highlighted here is Kisumu County, where some school heads who sought anonymity, of course, say that many teen mothers have been transferred to other schools to avoid the stigma that comes with this. So again, a county like Narok has highlighted that they have over 10,000 girls who got pregnant during this COVID break. So as the schools continue to adjust to this new norm and how they can be able to put in place special facilities for expectant and young mothers.
Now, talking about young mothers, there's a report. It indicates that a majority of boys within the coast region are yet to report to school, even after the resumption of in-person learning kicked off across the country. According to the Ministry of Education, is that most schools have recorded a high turnout of girls with little information on the whereabouts of schoolboys. Here are details as a report prepared by Kamche Menza.
Parents of learners who have not reported back to school at the coast region risk being arrested come Monday if they will not avail their children for classes. Education Chief Administrative Secretary Zach Kinuthia, who toured the region, revealed that a high number of learners, mostly boys, are yet to appear in schools a week after face-to-face learning resumed.
Nimeshtuka sana kuona hapa pwani wale waliorudi shule zaidi ni watoto wasichana, vijana hatujui wako wapi. Wasichana wamerudi sana, vijana hatujui wako wapi. Nikauliza nikaambiwa wengine wako bodaboda, wengine wako baharini, wengine wameenda vibarua Mombasa na wengine wameenda pahali pengine.
The Education CAS, who was speaking during the burial of former Kaloleni Member of Parliament Gunga Mwinga, said it was a shock that the learners freely absconded school to engage in manual jobs, tasking parents to avail the learners.
Nataka nitoe onyo kali sana hapa. Kama mtoto wako kijana yu biashara zake Kilifi, Mtwapa, Mombasa na anatafuta hela duni, pigia simu sasa hivi umwambie asipojisalimisha shuleni Jumatatu atatiwa mbaroni, awekwe ndani, apelekwe Wamumu.
Waziri Magoha alisema watoto wasirejeshwe nyumbani kwa sababu ya fee. Tunataka uliseme hilo. Wazazi wetu hawana pesa, waregee shule, wabaki shule. Gavana yuko na pesa ya basari, tuko na pesa za basari, tutalipa.
The Ministry of Education also targets pregnant teenagers in the back-to-school operation, saying measures have been taken to offer an accommodative environment. But as the government embarks on the search for the missing boys who are yet to report back to school, a student in Meru County who allegedly faked kidnap has been arrested at Nkubu Town. Confirming the incident, Tharaka Nithi County Criminal Investigation Officer Betty Chepmweno said the boy who had left home for school later called his parents, informing them that he had been kidnapped and that his kidnappers were asking for 20,000 Kenya shillings ransom.
Yeye mwenyewe akatueleza mambo ya ukweli, akatuambia yeye hakukuwa amekuwa kidnapped. Yeye ni mafikirio, alifikiria ya kuwa aki-allege the allegation ya kuwa amekuwa kidnapped. Relatives yake watatuma pesa kwake. Yeye anasema marafiki zake wale wanatembea naye, wale wanasoma naye, wakiwa nyumbani anaona wanavaa nguo mzuri, nguo ya mavazi ya vijana, lakini sababu familia yao ya kijana iko chini sana, akaona waje fake apate pesa, ndio akitoka shule aje anunue mavazi avae kama watoto wengine.
Kamchemenza for Channel 1 News.
Well, now time is ripe for a break, so we shall take that. When we return, I'll be telling you why the Kenya National Union of Teachers wants its members reinstated, else they're going to reject the BBI. William, thank you so much for watching the show and for your response online. And you're saying you wanted to condemn America's post-election violence, but then you remember that your visa application is still pending approval. In that regard, America is showing us the value of political tolerance and how police should handle protesters. We're taking a break. We'll be back in a moment.
balloon Wakenya. Kari ndio hii. Sorry, kifungu ndio hii kari. Ni furaha ile niko nayo. Msichali keti. Wacha tupeane mali ya wenyewe.
Ni vizuri tupe watu vitu zao.
Uchukue mali yako. Acha uchukue mali yako. Hiyo ndio shamra.
Hiyo ndio shamra ya quick bid.
Umeona? Umeamini?
Nimeamini kabisa.
Hii inaitwa nini?
Hii inaitwa kifungu.
Na hii inaitwa nini?
Toyota Probox.
Toyota Pro. Mpatie kifungu hiyo.
Shika ingine. Ndio ya kuendesha. Onesha.
Ndio.
Na wewe unaitwa nani?
Naitwa Steven.
Steven nani?
Kahuho.
Nakwambia. Uliwekelea bid ya ngapi brother?
1772 peke yake.
We. Na ndio amejishindia Probox. Sasa hii Probox inakusaidia aje?
Itakuwa nisaidia kazi yangu ya kuuza matunda.
Unaambia je watu wako nyumbani ambao watakuona na hii?
Wote wacheze na quick bid. Ukweli.
Ni ukweli.
Kabisa.
Sasa tufanyie vizuri. Ingia upate mizigo yako bana. Ingia utoshee ukae usikie. Inakutosha sawa? Sisi tulikwambia ni aje? Bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini. Bidhaa bora kwenye bei ya chini.
Jiunga na QuickBid ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bidi yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16, kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bidi yako pia kwenye www.quickbid.co.ke. Kumbuka, bidi ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio ununua. QuickBid, bidhaa bora kwa
Unichukulie kwa mfano ndani ya matatu.
Unajua Saturday yaandikangu hivyo.
Ni nini wewe?
Yaani mtu mzima na miaka zake hizo miaka zote. Mtu ajui kujua kuandika note. Note tu peke yake. Kusoma kweli inasaidia.
Kijana nini nakusumbua na mimi?
Nauliza ni ungwana?
Don't you dare insult me, okay?
Mama Angel,
don't you dare.
Me.
Oh, please.
Let the dead bury.
They are dead, right?
Hizo viatu zake zinanuka. Songea huko. Haya. Kwani ni vita? Ni nini? Yaani wataka kumpiga. Huwezi mpiga, mpige nini?
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Ashok, it is impossible for you to escape from the trap that I have set for you.
Hey, Lord. Hey, Lord. I only have one son, Lord. Please spare his life, Lord. Please spare his life.
I swear if I'm lying, then you may die. Or maybe I die first.
Huh? Who had come here? This is the kind of security arrangements you have. Will someone answer me?
Simujifanya ni washindani. Ngoja usiku ifike.
Mimi ni paka mwitu, nitakupa pura.
Ni usiku sasa, matatizo kuna nini?
Mtume! Nilikwambia wacha kuzungumza na mwanamke. She has no respect. Coming to my party.
Wataka kunipiga? Nipige. Kuwa makini sana ule mke wako. La usivyo tukugharimu.
Mamako mwenyewe. Wewe
usiniudhi. Sawa, wewe ulimwona mamangu?
Huwezi kunisaidia? Nenda zako.
To you too. Cheers.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
But I'm hoping to see you on Monday and make plans to meet again so we could talk. I need to let you know what I feel for you.
Oh, darling. I cannot wait any longer to see you again. To hold you again. And to once again show you that I love you. I hope that you'll be here for my birthday, Juliana.
Cons, I don't think we should get married.
Why are you telling me this right now, Max?
There's another woman in my life.
You realize what?
The love that I feel for you.
It's okay, Ray, you're safe. But you should honor your roots, okay? Yeah? Bimbia.
Leave my people alone. Hey.
We got you. I mean, yeah?
Really?
How Ameru is going to actually say BBI. It begins like BBI. Talking about BBI and the intrigues there, Kenya National Union of Teachers now says reinstate our members or else we're going to reject this report. This was a sentiment that was made by Wilson Sosion at Visa Oshwal in Baringo County during the elections for officials for this particular union. It appears to be a blackmail move from Sosion and else interpreted that he's trying to gain political relevance after the union said that he's no longer eligible to vie for Secretary General's position. It's not the first time that the union has had reservations with Wilson Sosion as the Secretary General. Negotiations and compromise have seen him continue being at the helm of this union. So what exactly is going to happen moving forward? That story is on page 7 of the Star this morning. And pictured there is Wilson Sosion during the union's branch elections at Visa Oshwal Primary School in Kabarnet Town in Baringo County on Saturday. This is where these particular sentiments were made, that reinstate our members or else we shall reject the BBI. Page 7 of the Star has that particular report for you in earnest, right, Jane? Yeah?
Now, I wanted to move to a different story.
It's all right.
But since we are on that political vibe, let's look at page 4 of the Daily Nation. And we have Ruto, who's been quoted saying, "Stop fueling ethnic tension," in response to President Uhuru Kenyatta's remarks. So just go to this particular story in very brief. And this is what happened yesterday when the Deputy President is said to have criticized President Kenyatta, accusing him of stalking chaos with his remarks that the presidency had become the property of just 2 tribes in Kenya. Now, he further went to say that the president risked taking the country back to the chaos that was witnessed in the 2007 elections. And while he did not mention President Kenyatta by name, and I'm reading as per this particular piece, this was one of the many occasions that the DP told off his boss in their political exchanges, and more so on a public platform. He said that his decision to support the president for the last 3 elections was not based on tribe, but rather his agenda for the country. You can get to read that particular story on page 4 of the Daily Nation. Understand, you know, the political angle that has been used to approach the different narratives that are being thrown in regards to the presidency. I don't know, Ray, if you have more in regards to this particular story.
Indeed, and this, what you have just, what the scribe there on the Daily Nation has quoted, we have it in verbatim in a report that Suleiman Yeri prepared, and this happened in Kayole. Let's have a listen in so that you can decide if indeed he was either referring to his boss, the president, or someone else. Here's the report.
Attending a church service in Kayole, Nairobi County, Deputy President William Ruto was categorical that Kenya cannot afford to lose the unity gains and slide back to ethnic hegemony. Ruto reiterating that the 2022 general election will be about development agenda for the people and not tribal politics.
Wamepata wasiwasi kwa sababu biashara yao ya ukabila na bei ya ukabila Kenya imepungua, na hasara itapatikana kwa biashara yao kwa sababu wa Kenya hawataki kuuziwa ukabila tena, wanataka kuuziwa sera na wanataka kujua maisha yao itabadilika vipi.
The deputy president stating what motivated him to support President Uhuru Kenyatta.
Na nilimuunga mkono nikijua ya kwamba Mwai Kibaki alikuwa ofisini na ilikuwa ni makusudi ndio tuweze kuondoa siasa ya ujinga ya kuweka watu katika mirengo ya kabila.
Ruto insisting that clamor to change the constitution should also focus on empowering the common mwananchi.
It is not a must. It is not a condition that William Ruto or anybody must be president, but it is a must that we must all sit on the table. It is not negotiable. It is not negotiable that we can continue to have an exclusive conversation about few people and about some tribes and about some leaders. We are going to have a honest national conversation.
The only thing that we should be preoccupied with is reforming IEBC so that uchaguzi wa mwaka ujao ukuwe wa uhuru na haki. Tukae chini, mwenye kushindwa ashindwe na mwenye kushinda ashinde.
Leaders who accompanied him expressing the need for politicians to call themselves to order and move away from ethnic politics and self-interest.
Hatuzungumzii hiyo lugha yenu ya exclusion. Tribal conversations are about excluding other people. It is about telling others that wewe huwezi kukuja hapa because you come from this place or the other. But the hustler conversation is about inclusion. It is about having everybody on the table.
Let's not be diverted from our focus. Mtu yoyote anakuja kutuambia mambo ya ukabila, anafaa kujiuliza swali moja. Saa zile sisi tunaangalia kiongozi, hatuangaliangi ni kabila gani ametoka. Sisi tukiangalia kiongozi, tunaangalia ile kitu Mungu ameweka ndani yake.
Mahasla sio takataka, mahasla ni wa Kenya. Na wamekuwa mahasla sababu ya uongozi mbaya unaozingatia ukabila. Ndio mahasla wamesema watarudi one step backwards, waangalie mahali walipotea, warudishe nchi mahali inafaa kuwa.
The event also serving as an avenue to drum up support for Margaret Wanjiru for the Nairobi governorship seat in the forthcoming by-election.
Mimi nawauliza kwa unyenyekevu, hivi karibuni tutakuwa na uchaguzi hapa Nairobi, na sisi tunataka kuchagua mtu Nairobi ambaye anaelewa shida ya mahasla. Hatutaki mtu ya kubebewa na kuletewa.
Nairobi tumefika boiling point. Tunataka kiongozi ambao atatuokoa. Tunataka kiongozi ambao atakumbuka masilahi yetu.
Suleiman Yeri, Channel 1 News.
Mimi nataka nipatie.
All right, so that's the report there indicating. Why are you smiling like that, Lady Jane? And this is coming from Lord Samuel.
Pardon me.
Pass my best to Lady Bamsworth.
Oh my God.
My lady?
Lord Samuel passed his regards, Bamsworth.
Lady Jane here.
Lady Jane.
At the center there we have
Lady Bamsworth.
Lady Bamsworth.
Absolutely. And we're getting more. Those are English characters, by the way. So welcome to the program. In case you're just joining us, this is Good Morning Kenya, the only way to kickstart your morning. Thank you, Tony, for watching the show and you're saying, usidharau machungwa, maembe ni ya msimu tu. We got you. And thank you so much for watching the program. Now let's get to understand more of what is happening with the Star. And I'm taking you to page 11 of this particular daily. And it talks about the state now beginning a search for 450,000 learners who are yet to report to school. This story has been highlighted by my colleagues right here. And they say the causes of absenteeism include flooding, early pregnancies, and child marriage. We saw those pictures last week in the dailies about kids who are trying to access schools through canoes. And you can only imagine. Yeah, ladies, you can only imagine the situation. You may not be exactly worried as a parent if your kid does not leave home for school, but you will be more worried that your child has not gotten back from school back home. Ebu imagine kupigia mwalimu wa shule. You see the way us right here, Ukutsao and the Metropolis, right? Where you just make a call and understand where the bus or the driver is.
Yeah.
Sindio, imagine ukipigia, you're in Baringo or West Pokot, one of those counties, right? And upigia mwalimu simu muulize, niaje mtoto wangu bado hajafika, nakwambia na nilimweka kwa canoe 2 hours ago. No, I just visualize what you would do, because then it means, because these particular areas are flooded, rivers and water masses have burst their banks. Crocodiles and hippos are still domiciled in those particular masses. So it's a concern, honestly. And the search is still ongoing. We saw the Chief Administrative Secretary in the Ministry of Education, that is Zach Kenothio, talk about a prosecution for any parent who is not going to render their kids back to school. So what does this mean for you as a parent? And I believe it will be part and parcel of the conversation that Jane Wamboi will be having during Family Check at around 9. Cindy or Jen?
Absolutely, and you can imagine if that is how the situation is going to school, how is school itself, or the new form of school, because most of the schools have been submerged, so they are just having makeshifts as the new classrooms and schools, and they have to deal with that, the stresses in the class, the stresses going back home, and also going back to school. And I can see a tweet by Captain Said who's saying, hatujui hata wapi tutapata school fees in regards to keeping our kids in school. Na hapa hivi kuna tweet ingine iko wapi? Nilikuwa nimeona somebody who responded earlier on asking, Mbimbia imefanya nini?
Oh, they're asking that? And actually, you remember there was a time people were joking about this return to school, doing memes about ati wazazi wapewe time watafute watoto kwa hata wajui kwenye wako. 450,000 are yet to report back. And some of the issues that have been highlighted include neglect. So you can imagine the concern is dire and it needs urgent attention.
Now, still talking about dire situations and attention, we have a problem in Isiolo, and this is matters of insecurity, where 6 people from Orurua village in Merti, Isiolo County, have been killed in a span of 48 hours in fresh attacks by assailant believed to be from neighboring Wajir County. Now, tension is said to have been sparked by herders tussling over a disputed border boundary. Here's a report by Aidan Mohammed.
Residents in Isiolo County and Wajir County have had long-standing conflicts ranging from boundary dispute as well as grazing area. The latest incident has raised tension in the already fluid situation between 2 counties. The latest conflict claiming the lives of 2 brothers who were shot dead while on a motorbike on Wednesday, and 4 herders were ambushed while sleeping in Amanyata on Thursday night.
Watu 6 this week, watu 6 wamekufa na mama moja wamefunja mguu na mali nyingi zimepotea, mbuzi, ng'ombe, donge mingi displacement. Wakati risasi inakuja wewe ndio mali imekimbia imepotea,
na tunahuzunika sana na hii mambo lazima ikomeshwe. na serikali ambaye ni serikali kuu ambaye inahusika na security inatakikana ichukue hatua ya haraka, hatua dhabiti.
According to Dabaso Halkano, herders from Wajir are on a mission to forcefully evict their Isiolo counterparts from a water point.
Tunaomba serikali atuletee maji, atuletee chakula, atuletee security ili hii watu wetu wakae na amani.
Area leaders who visited Urura, led by Isiolo Governor Mohamed Kuti, called on the Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i to move with speed and beef up security in the affected areas so that lives of innocent citizens are not lost unnecessarily.
Kwa hivyo ni muhimu sana magari ziongezwe, police stations ziongezwe, na hii inahitaji mikutano ya dharura baina ya viongozi ya Isiolo na watu wa security, hasa Bwana Matiang'i.
Indeed, matters of security taking center stage in Isiolo County. Now, still there are safety concerns, and you mentioned about this, Sam, earlier, about safety concerns while we're crossing the ferry. We saw what happened over the weekend, but now this was fast. There was a fast response in regard to this, but I think something has to change, because it takes me back to that accident there, or incident, where a mother and her child died. To the point, I can't imagine what was going through the mother's mind those last minutes. I can imagine the child was screaming for the mother to help her. You know, that is something we need. We need to do something about the ferry. Something needs to be done, and it doesn't need to be done in weeks. It needs to be done now. That was a whole bus that partly submerged there. Though there was quick response, there's something that needs to be done.
Yeah,
the Likoni crossing.
According to the driver's account, he said that he lost control of the bus, and as I was trying to get into the ferry, because the ramp is very slippery, and of course this was due to the rains that we are experiencing as a country. But they were rescued by local fishermen, by the way.
It was such a great thing to watch. I mean, the rescue. It came in handy, came in time. And at one point when a rope was, thrown to the shore, every other person now got into it. Kujaribu, to pull it. It was just a beautiful scene of people coming together for the good of another person.
Yeah.
And for me, we're yet to get to that point. It was a lesson drawn, even as we talk about political drumbeats and all this, being there for the other person, always rising to the occasion, to always help out somebody. For me, that's very, very key. I really felt that.
But something has to be done. If you have used that ferry, you would know the scuffle that is usually there. It's actually quite a scary moment, especially after that particular accident where a mother and her daughter lost their lives. And now this driver says on his account is that the ramp was slippery. Can we do something? We don't need to necessarily be losing lives every now and then. That was a near mishap, and it didn't happen because we came together as Kenyans, innate goodness. And I like what you say, Sam. Indeed, it was unity. We didn't care if we are pro-supporters of the deputy president or the president or BBI or Kikuyu or Luo. It really didn't matter. It's just that we were there to stand with each other. And I think this is what we need going forward. Be your brother's keeper.
Absolutely. And this is this incident happened just 2 weeks after another incident happened.
Yeah.
In December. But it said that it took about 5 hours for the bus to be retrieved.
Yeah, but remember, when cars plunge into the ocean, it takes days to retrieve them. And what's in 5 hours if it's going to save a life? I mean, for me, that is what stood out. People came together and actually saved this particular life. And you know what? Talking about coming together and getting the support that you need for your hustle, for your day-to-day living, it's all too important that I appreciate a friend of mine here. We call him Pato Ranking, and he's watching the show. And he just sent us a quote, ladies. And he's saying that to be successful, you don't need a beautiful face, you don't need a heroic body. What you need is a skillful mind and the ability to perform. Thank you so much, Patrick, for that. We appreciate it. And asante sana for watching Good Morning Kenya this Monday.
Pato
ranking.
Tumekurang.
Manze.
Kabisa.
Umenawo. Umemonchoka tu na hiyo quote. Asante sana for that. And we're just about to take a break.
Actually, we're about to close.
I can see our lady here.
Lady Bumsworth.
Lady Bumsworth.
Oh my God.
Shall we
shift? Is doing something with her hands, indicating that could be time is right for us to take a break. But remember, Ion Politics is coming up next. And as we told you, we shall be dissecting these political statements that have been made over the past 7 days. Key among them, what we heard the president say during the late Hannah Mudavadi's burial over the weekend. Also, we'll be getting to understand the rebound or the response that he got from the deputy president on Sunday, that is yesterday. All that and much more will be coming up with Daniel Orogo, Frederick Sasia, and guess who's back? Advice Mundalo.
To advice on
in
the
all
way
his
forward.
glory. It's just a shade into the show.
Well, as we are looking forward to that panel, we'd want to remind you that one of the developing stories that we're going to be keenly focusing on is today, Maraga's exit. So Chief Justice David Maraga terms comes to an end today, and it will be capped by a special court ceremony in his honor. Now, Maraga, who has attained the age of 70, will be handing over the instruments of power to his deputy, Philomena Mwilu, who will serve until a new office bearer is appointed. We'll be keeping tabs on that, so do keep it right here. For the time being, well, how about we take a short break? When we return, we have so much in store for you, including that particular discussion on what is happening within our political scene, as well as focusing on family issues, and also borrowing so much on that particular report that has been made public by KEMRI that indicates that that girls in Western are at a high risk of HIV infections. We're going to be actually giving you a link at 9 a.m. of that particular ceremony that is going to be held, a special court ceremony that is going to be held this morning as Chief Justice David Maraga terms comes to an end, and he will be handing over the instruments of power to his deputy there, Philomena Mwilu. So 9 a.m. we'll be bringing you live pictures of that particular ceremony. So do keep it right here. We take a short break. We'll be right back.
Enda pale kwa Palume. Wakenya. Kari ndio hii. Oh, sorry, kifungu ndio hii kari. Ni furaha ile niko nayo. Muzijali kete. Wacha tupeane mali ya wenyewe.
Ni vizuri tupe watu vitu zao.
Wacha uchukue mali yako. Wacha uchukue mali yako. Hiyo ndio shamra.
Hiyo ndio shamra ya quick bid.
Umeona? Umeamini?
Nimeamini kabisa.
Hii inaitwa nini?
Hii inaitwa kifungu.
Na hii inaitwa nini?
Toyota Probo.
Toyota Pro. Mpatie kifungu hiyo.
Shika ingine. Ndio ya kuendesha.
Onesha.
Na wewe unaitwa nani?
Naitwa Steven.
Steven nani?
Kahuho.
Nakwambia uliwekelea bid ya ngapi brother?
1772 peke yake.
We. Na ndio amejishindia Pro Box. Sasa hii Pro Box inakusaidiaje?
Itakuwa inanisaidia kazi yangu ya kuuza matunda.
Unaambia je watu wa kwenye nyumbani ambao watakuona na hii?
Wote wacheze na quick bid.
Ukweli. Ni ukweli.
Kabisa.
Sasa tufanyie vizuri. Ingia upate mizigo yako bana. Ingia utoshee, ukae usikie. Inakutosha sawa? Sisi tulikwambia ni aje? Bidhaa bora kwenye bei ya chini. Bidhaa kwenye bei ya chini.
Jiunga na QuickBid ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bidi yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16. Kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bidi yako pia kwenye www.quickbid.co.ke. Kumbuka, bidi ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio ununua. QuickBid, bidhaa bora.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Ashok, it is impossible for you to escape from the trap that I have set for you.
Hey, Lord. Hey, Lord. I only have one son, Lord. Please spare his life, Lord. Please spare his life.
I swear if I'm lying, then you may die. Or maybe I die first.
Huh? Who had come here? This is the kind of security arrangements you have. Will someone answer me?
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
But I'm hoping to see you on Monday and make plans to meet again so we could talk. I need to let you know what I feel for you.
Oh, darling. I cannot wait any longer to see you again, to hold you again, and to once again show you that I love you. I hope that you'll be here for my birthday, Juliana.
Cons, I don't think we should get married.
Why are you telling me this right now, Max?
There's another woman in my life.
You realize what?
The love that I feel for you.
Get ready for a 3 weeks Africa Football Feast as the new year kicks off with the 6th edition of the Africa Nations Championship in Cameroon. From the 16th of January to the 7th of February 2021, 16 teams from the continent will be spread across 3 cities as the best players from domestic leagues showcase their talents live on KBC Channel 1. Let's support our own.
Mjifanya ni washindani. Ngoja usiku ifike.
Mimi ni paka mwitu, nitakupa pura.
Ni usiku sasa, matatizo kuna nini?
Mtume! Nilikwambia wacha kuzungumza na mwanamke. She has no respect. Coming to my party. Wacha kunipiga, nipige.
Kuwa makini sana ule mke wako. La usivyo tukugharimu.
Mamako mwenyewe. Wewe usiniudhi. Sawa, wewe ulimwona mamangu.
Huwezi kunisaidia. Nenda zako. To you too. Cheers.
The battle for the last 16 places of the DFB Pokal, better known as German Cup, is on. As former champions Bayer Leverkusen and Eintracht Frankfurt face off, hoping to book their place against Ottoways SN. Watch it unfold live on your true sports partner KBC Channel 1 on Tuesday the 12th of January from 10:45 p.m.
Unichukulie kwa mfano ndani ya matatu.
Unajua Saturday yaandikangu hivyo.
Ni nini wewe?
Yaani mtu mzima na miaka zake, hizo miaka zote. Mtu ajui kujua kuandika note. Note tu peke yake. Kusoma kweli inasaidia.
Kijana, nini nakusumbua na mimi?
Nauliza ni ungwana.
Don't you dare insult me, okay?
Mama Angel,
don't you
point
dare.
me.
Oh, please.
Let the dead bury.
They are dead, right?
Hizo viatu zake zinanuka. Songea huko. Haya. Kwani ni vita? Ni nini? Yaani wataka kumpiga. Huwezi mpiga, umpige nini?
Please keep those comments coming through because they're really, really making my day. And in the course of the program today, I will be sampling them for you. In the meantime, welcome so much, if there's such a phrase in English, to Eye on Politics. My name is Samuel Njoroge. I've got a full house today, but I'll begin with introducing those who had the decency of showing up last week. I'll begin with Daniel Orogo. Thank you so much for coming, sir.
Thank you. It's good to be here this morning.
Asante sana.
We are in charge.
What a man.
Yes.
Frederick Sasia, how are you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah?
We are only speaking taka-taka.
It was quite a political weekend. Was that Baba in an Air Force flight? I mean, chopper.
My friend. People's president.
I'm trying to ignore this guy.
For a while. I've said we just slept with our shoes on bed. We enjoyed, aboard Air Force One in Kisumu. And it was not only one.
Imagine.
3 in number. And speaking about shoes, we. It's a collective onage, responsibility.
I understand politically speaking, Baba is a collective noun.
And speaking about shoes.
Advice.
Yes.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Welcome back.
I'm happy to be back.
Manze, you're still festive. I like the coat.
Yeah,
I like the coat.
What about the advice?
I hope you've come with good tidings.
Definitely.
Oh,
The year is young, the year is good, so definitely it's going to be a very good year.
All right.
Yeah.
The person on your screen right now is Samuel Njoroge. You'll be saying advice in just a short while. But gentlemen, as we winded up the show, or we wound up the show, that's the correct term. As we wound up the show last week, we agreed on something. Let's listen in on the speeches that will be made during the burial of the late Hannah Mudavadi.
Yes.
And from that, we make a discussion for this Monday. Cindy, Frederick, what did you capture of the speeches that were made during this burial, politically speaking?
Taka. Anyway, it was a very nice weekend, and you see, you reminded us that over the weekend, let us be so much observant on who and what will be spoken at Mululu. And somehow I was so much keen, and I realized Mululu has started a new conversation in this country. Yes, it was a burial, but it was also a political burial. Everyone that spoke somehow delved into the politics of the country, and people were so much agitated, or rather focused, on now speaking something to do with debunking the hustlers narrative, which has been selling so much and is still selling. But now we have a new commodity in the shelves, that we do not want the 2 tribes, we want the 40 tribes. And you know, it is another commodity that is going to sell so much, especially if it is sustained and maintained. But again, it will depend with how people will interpret it. If we take it to be so much tribal, it might cause trouble. But if we take it to mean giving other communities a position, or rather a chance to vie and win a top position, then it is a nice conversation to speak about, because we've seen everyone speak about it. We've seen even the deputy president himself speak about it. He's been telling us the real reason why we have the hustlers narrative is because he's been telling us we do not want the 3 families to be on top. It just means we also do not need the true communities or regions on the top seat. So it is a good narrative, and I think I might subscribe to it, because I also feel, like Mdama said, we have some mothers and fathers in other communities who are able to give birth to people who can lead this country, and not only lead this country, but lead this country to the right direction. We also do not just want community leaders or other tribal leaders. We want people who can come from the Pokomo, Mijikenda, be it Luya, or any other community, and lead this country, because we are a country of 42 tribes. We are not a country of 2 or 3 tribes. Yeah.
Daniel.
Well,
I think the burial at Mululu had 3 symbolic, significance. One is that coming from a backdrop where there was a letter that was written before, and the letter pointed out towards, the missing links in the drama for BBI in central Kenya, and it also provided the president with an opportunity to respond and to claim, reassure the country that he is in charge of what is going on. Now, just like my colleague has alluded to, I think one of the most significant things that happens in the burial, and again, we would probably find time to, think, why is there nowadays our burials are turning up to be a political platforms, and the churches as well. But that be it what it is, I really agree that it now warranted the president to reassure, the country, and he's following. He's not only the head of state, but he's also the leader in the political discourse that we are having. And therefore, I think he could have been advised that his silence was going to cause his camp. And, in the absence of information, there's always an assumption. So for me, I think it was important for him, out of being incited, which I think he was incited by Senator Malala, and Atuoli, to respond in the sense that he is in charge, and assure the country that, somebody cannot be making utterances and, very, very funny utterances to the head of state and to the family. And I think for us as a country, I think we should not degenerate to a sense where anybody just hurl anything to the first family. I think that is an institution. And in whatever happened in Msambweni it has been happening in this country, where everybody feels that he can utter any word to the presidency, which is an office, and to the first family, which is an institution, and people go free for it. So I think it was important for the president, in all manner of respect, one, to assure the country that he is in charge, of which we could even question, why would we tell the people that you're in charge if you're in charge indeed? And secondly, for a sense that in this country, I think that we have to debunk this narrative.
Okay.
That you can't have a narrative of the poor versus the rich. They must be based on ideology. And the ideology right now is that we as a country, and what the BBI is championing for is the fact that there must be an inclusion. I don't know why you're laughing.
You're smiling
me,
too.
You know,
He wants to be happy alone. Why do you want to be happy alone? Orogo. Yeah, moving to you, advice. What do you make of the statements that were made over the weekend?
First of all, it's a happy new year to all our viewers, and wishing them the best, all the best this year. In Malulu, a lot happened. I think the first thing I think that I was able to note in Malulu is that Moses Kuria was promised that in the presidency of William Ruto, he will be the first person to be arrested. He was promised that by the court to SG. But that said and done, we were also able to see the concept of the safe pair of hands come up very strongly, and you could be able to see speaker after speaker try to champion the narrative of a Musalia Mudavadi presidency. And also there was a lot of, I think it's one of those occasions that really united the Luhya political leadership. You could even see Muskari Kombo there and trying to champion the same narrative of a Musalia Mudavadi presidency being called a safe pair of hands and such, which was a good thing, and I think the Luhyas were very excited at this. But again, they need to be very wary because we've been there before. This has happened before, and Musalia Mudavadi has been a presidential flag bearer for about 24 to 48 hours before something happened, and he was called Madimoni. So we need to really get to know whether this was whether he was getting this because he was grieving and so people needed to tell him a lot of nice stuff, or whether these people are actually genuine in what they were telling him. And then, of course, what was able to carry the day was that the president took the bullet by Senator Malala and Francis Atwoli and got incited into saying, you know what, let us then have a conversation. If we must have a conversation about the hustlers versus the dynasties, then let us have a conversation about tribe, which was taken in whichever way, depending on which political side you are, you chose which side to take. But from my estimation, I really come from the understanding that tribe is not very, very important in the leadership of any country, because what the country needs, what Kenya needs today is just a sober leader. It needs somebody who will be able to revive the industries. It needs somebody who will be able to take our economy to the next level. But again, I also come from the understanding that it doesn't hurt. If we've already had 2 tribes out of 40, over 40 tribes, then it can't hurt for us to have a 3rd tribe in power. But also we need to make it we need to also make Kenyans aware that that cannot be the main point of leadership. Leadership is not about which tribe you come from, but it also doesn't hurt for us to have a leadership that revolves around other communities.
Let's take a look at this statement that ukiona Simba amenyeshea uskadhani ni paka, because that is what the president said. In your own estimation, Frederick, ni mvua gani hii imekuwa ikinyeshea president?
You see, the president is somehow confirming the worry most of us have had, because the president has been so much quiet, and you realize at times jibes have been thrown on his way, but he's never replied, and he's been so cool, not speaking anything. We've seen the Tanga camp try and give some harsh words against him. We've seen even people like Kangata write letters to him, but the president has never come out as a president. But you see, if you ask me, I would have said, don't talk, but let people see what you are doing. You see, President Moi could not call a press conference to warn you. You just see action at your doorstep. You wake up in the morning and
that's the 1 p.m. news.
Yes, you find people. You find people at your gate, and you are picked, and no one knows where you are. So let Uhuru also, like Atwoli said, make presidency be presidency. Usikwe mtu, like people can do anything. I can come like right now and call Uhuru names and it goes that way. But you see, again, we are not advocating for a system whereby the president can come and take people to a Nyayo kind of system. We are only saying, let the president restore respect to the presidency. That when people talk, let us have respect for the president. It's not about Uhuru. Any other president that will come to that position, they deserve respect. The family of the president deserves respect. So when we speak, let us speak out of respect. And I would tell maybe the president, now it is time you start directing the country in the right direction. You see, we want you to be so much on ground. Launch those projects. Where there is no project, start some tangible projects. Let people feel your presidency. It is not about the speeches and the threats and wanting to to be seen like the lion, but it is what you do that will make people realize we have a person like Uhuru as the president. So he has the political goodwill. He's not now fighting the opposition leader Raila Amolo Odinga. He's now having, the environment is good actually for Uhuru to work. Let him work. Let him now show people he can develop this country.
Right.
Yes.
And, you know, actually said, unaona hii rangi. Asi yangu. Pengine yangu ni light kidogo, lakini hiyo rangi usipoichunga. Sijui advice kufanya hivi. I don't know. Hii rangi usipoichunga unaweza mpata kwa bedroom. Right? That is what Atwoli said, and it's yet another statement that we shall be delving into. But moving to you, Daniel, what exactly will be shaping political headlines after this weekend or the previous weekend?
One is that the statement that the president made at the funeral, has caused political jitters. You can attribute that to the yesterday's comment. There was a service here in Kayole where there was a lot of responses that were made, following the statement that was, attributed to what the president said. So in essence, in politics, when you see that kind of reaction, then it is within your understanding that, of course, there are a number of what the president touched. He actually touched on bare knuckle of some political, and caused a lot of political jittery. So one, that would cause, and there would be a sustained onslaught on the speech that was made, because I keep on advising this panel and all of us that the moment the president has not recanted his previous statement, ya tano yake tano, ya yule mwingine, the deputy president, it still remains, something accolade on his collar that he has to fulfill. And I think people attribute that with him because others are daring him because he hasn't recanted that statement, which I think symbolically he did at the funeral.
He literally walked away from an MOU. Literally.
That literally. But then here is a statement that is made, but now other pundits are attributing that for the fact that he is not recanted. And from his statement on the funeral, I think that is a symbolic. He actually walked out of it. To recant. Yes, he's actually walked out of it symbolically by saying that, you see, my baggage of these tano ya kumi yake na kumi yangu is the fact that right now can we begin to have a conversation that other tribes could also occupy the leadership of this country. I think that was a tactical, a tactical retreat from that statement. Secondly, what I am seeing is, there is a problem, and this should be discussed within the legal provisions. If you have a political parties act that states very well that the manifesto, the stand of a political party is that when you are a political party or a coalition, nobody should actually fronting a different opinion and still occupies the seat. We are seeing there is a party in the name of UDA that was launched, and the claim is that we are rebranding it based on the previous party that had actually had a coalition agreement that disbanded its own and formed the party itself. So you see, Sam, we are staring at a situation where everybody would champion for an idea on the party that he was not elected to, and this gets scot-free. So what are we seeing forward? I am seeing a situation where the Jubilee Party and the head of the Jubilee Party is actually now going to crack a whip on the leadership of those who are actually gone ahead and form a different party. This will happen. What I'm also seeing, and I think these are also alluded to before, is that even as we see a staged walkout within some section of the Jubilee in the name of forming a different party, that would not it won't really go scot-free from my own thinking. For the fact that you sustain an onslaught on the head of a party and still the head of a party and he does nothing, which I think now he has said that even if I am quiet, symbolically, referring to the lion, the lion who's been rained on, I think he has an opportunity to restore the country and steer the country as a head of the government and as head of the state, but also as a head of a political party that is in a coalition agreement and a ruling coalition.
I guess he also alluded that he will be doing exactly that because he said ours is a democratic country and our time is coming. But moving on to what we saw or could be interpreted as a response by the Deputy President yesterday advised. Is it now apparent, really, and evident out there that the two could not be reading from the same script?
I think yesterday the Deputy President really tried to find a branch on the tree that he can really cling on, and it was so difficult. You could be able to see an agitated Deputy President. You could see a Deputy President who is really trying to find an answer. I think out of the over almost 3 years, the Deputy President has moved around the country and sold the hustler narrative. One of his biggest fears, and one of the things that the prisms on which the Deputy President was selling the hustler narrative, is he was intentional that the people should forget about his tribe, because he knew that once people are able to remember that he is Kalenjin, then Kenyans will remember that we have had a Kalenjin presidency before. Kenyans will remember that we have had a Kikuyu presidency before. And that's why the Deputy President, in his wisdom or lack of it, created this vehicle called the Hustler Movement, created another tribe called a Hustler Tribe. And of course, he has been able to sell it, and give credit to him. It has been able to sell up to a certain level. I've been to different parts of this country, and you can be able to see that actually some people have been able to buy into this narrative. But he has always moved knowing that he has a fear that one day, let not this tribe thing come up, because that is then the biggest detriment to his politics. So when the president himself put it out there that now let us also discuss the concept of tribe, that is it now about the country? Can the country be a country of two tribes? Will we revolve the presidency between the Kikuyu and the Kalenjin? I think the Deputy President was very agitated. I think it was the worst start of the year for him. And so he has really tried to look for things to answer. And that's why you could be able to even see him saying, I did not support Uhuru Kenyatta because he's Kikuyu. He even said that I did not support Uhuru Kenyatta because he is a son of a former president, which means he again debunked the concept of the dynasty himself. So I think the Deputy President, as at now, is really playing into the script that his competitors would want him to play into. A calm, collected, composed Deputy President is very dangerous.
All right.
But when he is annoyed, he's always the kind of person who will always throw around words, and so he'll always work against himself. And he has moved right into the script of those who are detracting him.
If you were a political handler for the Deputy President, Frederick, what are the 5 things that you would do very quickly?
You see, first, I would move in and tell the Deputy President to try and curtail his people, to check on the words they speak. I would also want to tell the Deputy President to not be acting so fast when a salvo is directed to his direction, because you see, at times he comes so fast, acts, and whatever he speaks works against him, like my friend has said. Like you see, when he debunks the hustler nation or the hustler narrative by saying that he not support the the president because he was the son of the former president of Kenya. You see, that was actually demystifying the hustlers versus dynasties narrative. And you see, I would also tell the president to try and tell these people, you don't attack power, you don't fight your bosses. You sell the hustler narrative, but try and avoid not to attack the president, because after all, who has the instruments of power? It is the president. And you heard him say, I am in control of this government and I know whatever and everything that is happening. You see, that is a very dangerous statement to come from a person who still holds office, and a person who is supposed now to release power to the coming president. Given our African politics, where we understand anything can happen. You can win elections, but you can go ahead and not become the president of that nation. I would also want to tell the president, and this is the 4th one, that please try and come up with a narrative that goes with what you say, because the deputy president tells us that let us now debunk the tribal narrative, let us now come to the ideology. But on the contrary, whatever he sells is hustlers, dynasties, wheelbarrows, and you want to ask yourself, is that now the ideology the deputy president wants us to substitute to the tribal narrative? You see, he speaks so nice, and I agree with him that I envisage our situation whereby we have a country that for once we compete based on ideology, based on a sober narrative, and we once exalt a democracy that is so healthy that somehow stands for the principles of democracy, where we have a decent society that is so much tolerant, and a society that is so much understanding that people can have different opinions but still vie and go for the same positions. So the deputy president also needs to find people who are serious and people who can advise him, because in his camp, he's the presidential candidate, he's the chief campaigner, he's the one funding the elections, he's the, even the MC. You understand, even in Kayole, he's the one calling people. You need
Be kind.
You see, you need to leave some people, you need to have some people to now control your campaign, to control your narrative. But you see, when you are everything, it is very easy for people to attack you. And you see, that's why the president just spoke once, and the whole camp on social media and everywhere they are, they're so much agitated, they do not, I'm even thinking they're not breathing actually. Because you see whatever they're posting and you wonder, these people are not breathing.
Why do I feel like that question should have been answered by Daniel Ogo? I don't know why, but he will still have the opportunity to do that. But also, we saw Raila in Kisumu.
Yeah.
And he had a fair share of things to say. And I'd like to get your view on this, Daniel. When you listen to what the former Prime Minister said in Kisumu, even his arrival and his choice of means of transport, what do you make of it?
Well, you know, it's within the protocol that two centers of power do not fly in the same, you know, in the same means of transport.
Calm down.
First of all, that is an assumption that, you know, there are centers of power that you could see, or there are preparation for another center of power, ushering in His Excellency, Right Honorable, do I say. But now, I think the most important thing is that, you know, I think there is a sense in which President Uhuru Kenyatta is actually telling the country that it is possible to work around with, you know, people who you had a different political ideal with, still unite the country, you know, access different parts of this country and do development. And to that, I think we accredit him for that, because one, I have seen a president who, you know, who many voted twice or thrice, you know, and has actually assured the country that he banks on that, you know, legitimacy, and is rolling out programs in different parts of the country where he is accepted. For me, the people of Nyanza and Luo Nyanza, I think, are coming to realization that if you've been out of government for some time, that becomes a problem. And if the moment you begin to work with the government, the moment you begin to work in hand with the government, it's actually possible to advise on the government where possible projects are needed. And that is a goodwill. Now, coming to what you said you had asked me, and I think let me candidly reply this, that all these, you know, politicians are in a political game. So what I would advise the deputy president, first of all, and I would agree that within his administration and within his structure of advisors, there needs to be a serious overhaul. And Frederick has alluded to something very important, that if you are a presidential candidate that is taking the entire responsibility, including blogging, you never mentioned including blogging, then I think that is very, very, very dangerous for you. There could be people who actually handle your communication who should not be Dennis Itumbi, if that would be my advice to him, because I think some bloggers are not strategists and are not politicians. This is a political game that requires even, you know, a targeted information that bloggers should be in a position only to amplify and not to create content for it. Secondly, as a politician, one of the things that I would advise the deputy president is to keep up his campaign. Yeah, because they're in a political game, and anybody who is telling you to slow down while others are accelerating is actually really not advising you. But then how would you do it? In a sense that appear to be working with your boss, but at the same time having some political recruitment. But the problem that the deputy president is doing, and this I will tell him on camera, is the fact that one of the problems that you should have done, you've launched this political party too early. And I am wondering what you would do with UDA as we, you know, accelerate towards towards election. If you decided to have a hustler narrative, how then would we sustain? How would you sustain this hustler narrative to 2022? Don't mistake me advice. I'm saying, how would this be sustained to 2022?
You missed out on the we.
So it is important for me that I would, and thirdly, I think lastly for my advice to him is, could you always, the deputy president, have his campaign based on ideology that is sustainable?
Okay.
I think this would actually accelerate his campaign.
Gentlemen, it's 35 minutes past the hour. We are due for a break, so let's take that. When we return, we shall be weighing in on more political statements that were made over the weekend, as well as focus on the exit of Chief Justice David Maraga this morning.
Enda pale kwa balloon Wakenya, kari ndio hii. No, sorry, kifungu ndio hii kari. Ni furaha ile niko nayo. Msijali Kate. Wacha tupeane mali ya wenyewe.
Ni vizuri tupee watu vitu zao.
Uchukue mali yako. Kuja uchukue mali yako. Allah! Hiyo ndio shamra.
Hiyo ndio shamra ya quick bid.
Umeona? Umeamini?
Nimeamini kabisa.
Hii inaitwa nini?
Hii inaitwa kifungu.
Na hii inaitwa nini?
Toyota Probox.
Toyota Pro. Mpatie kifungu hiyo.
Shika ingine. Ndio ya kuendesha.
Onesha.
Na wewe unaitwa nani?
Naitwa Steven.
Steven nani?
Kahuho.
Nakwambia. Uliwekelea bid ya ngapi brother?
1772 peke yake.
We. Na ndio amejishindia Probox. Sasa hii Probox inakusaidia aje?
Itakuwa inanisaidia kazi yangu ya kuuza matunda.
Unaambia je watu wa kwenye nyumbani ambao watakuona na hii?
Wote wacheze na quick bid. Ukweli.
Ni ukweli.
Kabisa.
Sasa tufanyie vizuri. Ingia upate mizigo yako bana. Ingia utoshee ukae usikie. Inakutosha sawa? Sisi tulikwambia ni aje? Bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini. Bidhaa bora kwenye bei ya chini.
Jiunga na Quick Bid ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bidi yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16. Kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bidi yako pia kwenye www.quickbid.co.ke. Kumbuka, bidi ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio ununua. Quick Bid, bidhaa bora.
The battle for the last 16 places of the DFB Pokal, better known as German Cup, is on. As former champions Bayer Leverkusen and Eintracht Frankfurt face off, hoping to book their place against Otto's SN. Watch it unfold live on your true sports partner KBC Channel 1 on Tuesday, the 12th of January from 10:45 p.m.
Nichukulie kwa mfano ndani ya matatu.
Unajua? Saturday yaandikangu hivyo.
Ni nini wewe?
Yaani mtu mzima na miaka zake hizo miaka zote. Mtu ajui kujua kuandika note. Note tu peke yake. Kusoma kweli inasaidia.
Kijana nini nakusumbua na mimi?
Nauliza ni ungwana?
Don't you dare insult me, okay?
Mama Angel,
don't you
point
dare.
me.
Oh, please.
Let the dead bury.
They are dead, right?
Hizo viatu zake zinanuka. Songea huko. Haya. Kwani ni vita? Ni nini? Yaani wataka kumpiga. Huwezi mpiga, umpige nini?
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Ashok, it is impossible for you to escape from the trap that I have set for you.
Hey Lord, I only have one son, Lord. Please spare his life, Lord. Please spare his life.
I swear if I'm lying, then you may die. Or maybe I die first.
Huh? Who had come here? This is the kind of security arrangements you have. Will someone answer me?
Simujifanya ni washindani. Ngoja siku ifike.
Mimi ni paka mwitu, nitakupa pura.
Ni usiku sasa, matatizo kuna nini?
Mtume! Nilikwambia wacha kuzungumza na mwanamke. She has no respect. Coming to my party. Wataka kunipiga? Nipige.
Kuwa makini sana ule mke wako. La usivyo tukugharimu.
Mamako mwenyewe. Wewe usiniudhi. Sawa, wewe ulimwona mamangu?
Huwezi kunisaidia. Nenda zako. To you too. Cheers.
Thank you so much for making time and welcome back to the program. My name is Samuel Njoroge and this is the only way to kickstart your morning. Good morning, Kenya. And we're currently having Eye on Politics, just focusing on the key political activities that have happened over the previous 7 days and what exactly they mean for our political future moving forward. Now, talking about future and moving forward, let's spend some time and lay focus on the tenure of the outgoing Chief Justice, that is David Maraga. At around 9 a.m., we expect a link where we shall be witnessing the transfer of or the occupancy of this seat, moving from the Chief Justice to his deputy, that is Philomena Mwilu, who will be an acting Chief Justice until that time when a substantial appointee will be made. Now, let's get to advice on the tenure of the Chief Justice. What do you make of it? The key hits, the key misses, and what we can learn?
I think the Chief Justice Maraga has actually had a good tenure. Of course, his tenure has been marred by a lot of ups and downs, a lot of things that happened alongside his tenure. But in my estimation, I don't think it was such a successful tenure as many would want to describe it, because I have a problem with the office of the Chief Justice that is judged on only two events. That one, it annulled the presidential election, and two, that he wrote a letter to the president advising the president to dissolve parliament. I think in a tenure of about 5 years, we cannot just judge by those two. I think basically it was not one of the most He was not one of the most successful Chief Justices that we have had in this country. I think he concentrated more on sideshows. He was a Chief Justice who did too many press conferences. We didn't see any, we saw a lot of problems at the courts, the backlog in cases, and I think basically what he was supposed to do as a Chief Justice, I didn't see a lot of it being achieved. I only see him being hailed for annulling the presidential election, and two, for writing a letter that had no effect on the country. I think as a Chief Justice, he needed to concentrate more on holding hands with the president to provide solutions for the country than complaining about the country so that it looks like he's on the better side of it. So, but generally, I think he had his term, and respectfully so, and it's time for him to exit, and I wish him well.
All right, wish him well. Over to you, Frederick.
Chief Justice Maraga is one of the Chief Justices that we've mistreated in this country. His tenure has had a lot of problems because he's not received the necessary support from the government. We've seen him throw jibes with the president. We've seen him being denied the prestige that comes with the office. And somehow I might maybe link that to his underperforming, especially when it comes to maybe fighting corruption and ensuring that his office, or rather his department and institution, is well governed and articulating or undertaking its issues and in a very nice way. So maybe going forward, we need to increase the support you are giving the Chief Justice, not maybe Philomena Mwilu because she's there for an acting capacity, but whoever comes in next in the full capacity needs to receive the necessary support from the government. And you realize that institution cannot work if you deny them maybe the necessary budget. You understand, Maraga has been denied even a budget. He could not work. He was a man under siege. You know, I sometimes disagree with the advice when he says Maraga did not achieve, but you understand it was a setup. You know, you deny a person a budget, you force him now to come and complain. Once he complains, now we hold him for the fact that he complained. But you see, you are the president of that arm of government. You are denied a budget. You are mistreated. You are not even given the prestige that comes to the office. Come on. Anyone else could feel frustrated. Anyone else could hold a press conference. Anyone else could underperform, because you need money to perform. To change that institution, to build the courts, you need money. Even you understand President Uhuru denied or rather refused to swear in judges. And then who are there to handle the cases? You see, we set him up so that you could blame him. But if he received the necessary support, I believe and strongly believe Maraga could have performed, because he was a man who stood for the Constitution and the truth, having a religious background and a man of church. He was a man who was after justice and ensuring that the Constitution was followed as it's supposed to be.
Daniel, before you counter advice, let me hear Daniel first.
Well, I agree that, you see, we really cannot peg the performance of the president of the judiciary to annulment of an election, and then we can also accredit that that to his persistence, and always a press conference. But then there are very many successes that we could actually see. One, we've had a lot of these courts that have been devolved, within counties and different parts of the country. We've had sometimes that there are courts that were even mobile, for expedition of justice, so that Maraga actually thought that would be a way of trying to deal with the backlog of cases. And we actually give him, what he deserves. He's tried the best with what he has. I think the only solution, the only challenge that the head of judiciary and the entire judiciary as an institution, one is that Kenyans and politicians should and ought to have understood that judiciary is an arm of the government. And to that extent, the Constitution is very clear that it is independent, but would actually consult with other arms of the government. And so therefore, some cases, I think, were hard and determined, that were not really, palatable to the executive and other arms of government. And the other time we were talking about this set where the judiciary had to rein in a case that was filed against, where the National Assembly had filed, the Senate had actually filed a case against the National Assembly. So you could actually see in his entire stint serving as the head of judiciary, he had to preside, and maybe his institution, that is judiciary, had to preside through cases that even some was at different arms of the government pursuing, and suing another arm of the government. This proves to be very complicated, and I think as a head of judiciary, he actually had to have wisdom, some Solomonic wisdom, to help in determining these cases without not really derailing the work of the government. But then I think there's some misses, like you've asked us also to talk about the misses. One is, I think, when we see that he would actually not constructively engage with the other arms, probably we could allude that to, the issue about the letter writing in this country. And I think it should be investigated that the moment people delve into writing letters, the question is, is that the last option after not accessing the relevant authorities? Because I think there's a number of cases where we are seeing people writing letters for the fact that they cannot access directly the people they would want to see. I think that would be something that Philomena Mwili and those who are actually inheriting that position would make sure that they use the powers that are conferred to them to access these people and discuss constructively with them. Maraga would have avoided, hanging on the president's convoy in Kisii, because this one again is one way that Kenyans would actually see that, he was fighting to get the attention of the president and to be seen as working with the president. I think that was one of the lowest moments that we saw from him, and he would actually be advised if that would not the best way to go. Otherwise, the position is that he's served the country, he's done his best, and he leaves a legacy that could actually be defined as a legendary. For me, and I think I wish him well, and he should actually still advise, provide advisory, advisory to the government. He would actually, and he's a church elder, I think, somewhere. Those are positions
SDA
yes, he could actually still serve and, provide leadership to the church and to the country at large.
What lessons then do we draw, especially when you look at the relationship between the judiciary and the executive, by extension, the legislature? What position should the incoming, or what should be the priorities then of the incoming CJ when it comes to managing the relationship between these three arms of government? Advice?
I think, first of all, the incoming CJ needs to have an understanding that the CJ is usually in government. We are starting to have a wrong tradition in this country where we have people who are in government, but then we judge them as though they were out of government. That is happening for the deputy president, and that is also happening for CJ Maraga, where people are talking as if he was actually not in government. He is actually the leader of a whole arm of government.
The president of the judiciary.
The president of the judiciary. And when you're the president of the judiciary, your core mandate is supposed to be to ensure that as a government you are able to deliver to the people. But now what Maraga was able to do was he sidelined himself and was able to complain about the government as though he was an opposition leader. And every other time he made an attempt to even communicate with the president, we saw his letters. Then I asked myself, why would a letter between the president of the judiciary and the president of the executive be able to spar onto social media and come onto the media? That shows that already there is ill will in it. So the incoming CJ, first of all, should be able to know that they hold an arm of government, and two, that they are professionals. CJ Maraga lost it when he became a politician. At the time, the CJ went to Kisii and accepted to be launched like a development project. After going through a rigorous interview and qualifying to be CJ, he then accepted to go to Kisii and be launched like a Jubilee development project. So, like a reward to the Kisii community. I think that was wrong, and that is that was the moment the CJ became a politician. And that's why he was treated like a politician all through. And he also succeeded in behaving like a politician all through, because when you're a politician, you hold press conferences, you complain to the public, you complain to the media. So he succeeded in becoming a politician. The next CJ should avoid being a politician and be a professional. When you are Chief Justice, there is a reason why even in some countries they are called lords. We are supposed to see you as the last stroke of hope. You're not supposed to be engaging with fights between you, the legislature, and the judiciary. You're not supposed to be striving to win against other arms of government. You should be striving to ensure that you're able to deliver in concurrence with other arms of government.
But some of the concerns he raised during his tenure, Frederick, were they legit? Were they valid?
You see, first I have to remind advice that when you see a family where there is a wife and a man, then you get the wife taking up her cloth and going back to the father. Just know the wife has tried to absorb that heat. She has tried to control, but now things are out of control. That is the moment they walk out.
Men are also taking their clothes and
yes.
Which men are taking their clothes, Daniel?
And that is actually what
I think that is the worst analogy that is the moment can use on this panel.
That is the moment you realize.
Because the reason that a lady would go home will not always mean that the man is on the wrong. Some ladies just go home because they love him.
I was going there.
They were raised badly.
Why are only ladies going home?
You see, nowadays,
Family check is coming up after this, so we will discuss that matter. But Sasia, kindly continue with your analogy.
Because you see, even nowadays, as Oroga said, even men are walking out. And when you see that, just realize there is a problem that is out of control. So when we saw Maraga come to social media, when we saw Maraga hold press conferences, there was a problem that was brewing that some of us could not see. You know, he couldn't wake up one day and come to hold a press conference and complain. Now, that's said and done. We also need to exalt the idea that we need to have independence in our institutions. The judiciary should not be serving at the mercy of executive at any given point, that the judiciary should be compliant for them to be allocated a budget. The judiciary should be now deciding cases of coming from parliament with favorism for them now to receive budget allocation from parliament with favor and without delays. You see, that is what has been happening. That when the courts decide something against parliament, then their budgets are held some of the budgets are cut off, and you realize that has been working against the president of the judiciary. In as much as we want to hold Maraga for not performing, of which I also suppose there are some aspects in which he did not perform, but let us also look at it from the angle that what made him not perform. Because we cannot be saying that Maraga came to press conferences, Maraga over-complained, Maraga distanced himself. You know, he couldn't distance himself if he was not frustrated within the systems. You know, if you look at Maraga, he's a man you can respect. Very humble and a churchman and a very cool guy. He's never been a politician, and I think even after his tenure, he's not going to be a politician. So the president and whoever comes in as a president, the next government, should always ensure that the three arms of government are not serving at the mercy of the other, but the independence is firmly constituted, the independence is firmly established, and the budgetary allocation is not a favor, but is a constitutional right.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. We wish you a great week ahead and looking forward to your insights come Monday next week. And talking about the exit of the Chief Justice, we bring in live Sarafina Robi, who's following up on this story and brings us the details. Sarafina, good morning. Take it away.
Indeed, a very good morning, Samuel, coming to you live from the Supreme Court of Kenya here in Nairobi. But today we are bringing you the live coverage of the ceremony or the tribute in honor of the Chief Justice David Kenani Maraga as he hands his instrumental power to the acting Chief Justice Philomena Mbete Mwilu. As we are speaking, Sam, the Chief Justice has already walked in, as you can see behind me, and we are waiting for the ceremony to start any minute from now. It is his last day in office as he attains the age of 70 tomorrow, which will be the 12th of January 2021. Given that the retirement age of any judge in Kenya, as stated in the Constitution, is 70 years old, then the Chief Justice retirement as of tomorrow, as stated in the Constitution, given that also any Chief Justice has an option of retiring as early as when he attains the age of 65, but the maximum tenure of office for any Chief Justice is 10 years. Given that the Chief Justice came to office in 2016, he has served for about 4 years, but he has had a very long legal term of practice, given that he has served for over 40 years or has been in legal practice for over 40 years, given that before he even came into the High Court or became a High Court judge, he had earlier on served for about 25 years. He came into office, he joined the High Court in 2003 as a High Court judge, and later on was elevated to the Appellate Court in 2012, which was during his vetting, one of the scenes that people still remember was when he was being sworn into office as an appellate judge, and he took a Bible and said that he had never taken a bribe in his life and was not planning to take a bribe ever when he was being sworn in as an appellate judge. Thereafter, in 2016, he was appointed the Chief Justice of Kenya, and he has served for about 4 years, retiring. Today is his last day in office, given that tomorrow, the 12th of January, he attains the age of 70 years old and hands instruments of power to his deputy, Philomena Mbete Mwilu, who will be taking over as the acting Chief Justice until the next Chief Justice is appointed within a minimum of about 6 months, which is going to be a long process whereby a number of legal practitioners who have served for about 15 years or who have been in legal practice for about 15 years will be interviewed and will undergo a very serious scrutiny and interview. Thereafter, the Judicial Service Commission will forward a name to the National Assembly for vetting, and thereafter the National Assembly will forward the name to the President for appointment. Given that the Chief Justice will be giving the instruments of power to the Deputy Chief Justice, is something that came over with the 2010 Constitution. Given that earlier on, the President had the powers of appointing any legal practitioner to be the Chief Justice. And one thing that stood out during that particular time is that the Chief Justice did not have the security of tenure, given that the President had the power of dismissing him at his own will. With the
2010 constitution came with the security of tenure, whereby the Chief Justice has a tenure of can serve for a maximum of 10 years. And when the office of the Chief Justice is vacant, he has to hand over, or the Deputy Chief Justice takes office, and when the Deputy Chief Justice office is vacant, then the senior most Associate Justice has to take over. This was experienced later on, or earlier on in 2016, when Justice William Mutunga was retiring at the age of 69, and he was supposed, the Deputy Chief Justice was supposed to take over, who was Justice Kalpana Rawal, but it so happened that Justice Kalpana Rawal was also retiring at the age of 70. Therefore, the senior most Associate Justice who could take the position was Mohammed Ibrahim, who took office during that particular time. These are events that we are going to experience today. We are going to see the Chief Justice David Maraga hand over the instruments of power to his deputy Philomena Mbete Mwilu. Just to go through some of the outstanding rulings that the Chief Justice has done before, is one of the most outstanding that Kenyans still remember him for, is the historical cancellation of the 2017 elections, where the President Uhuru Kenyatta had been declared a winner of about 54% of the votes that had been casted during that particular time. But the Prime Minister Raila Odinga went to court and submitted evidence showing that there had been hacking in some of the votes that had been casted. Therefore, the election was cancelled on based on illegalities and irregularities. Also, there are other outstanding rulings, or rather advisories, that the Chief Justice will be remembered for later on in 2020, whereby earlier on during early September, the Chief Justice David Kenani Maraga gave an advisory to the President to dissolve Parliament, since that it had failed to enact the legislation of the implementation of the 2/3 agenda rule, given that he stated that he had received, there were about 6 petitions, whereby he had received 6 petitions seeking his advice on what should be done, given that 4 court orders had been served to Parliament, and it had failed to enact the implementation of the 2/3 agenda rule. Also, most recently, as he left, or as he went for his terminal leave, one of the key issues that he touched on as he was leaving office, or as he was going for his terminal leave, was the most recent ongoing matter in the country, which is the Building Bridges initiative, whereby he touched on one of the proposals that has been placed in the Building Bridges initiative, whereby it involves the appointment of the office of the Ombudsman, whereby he said that should be left to the Judicial Service Commission, given the independence of the judiciary. Saying that this will interfere or will bring in conflict in advice issued between the office of the Ombudsman and the Judicial Service Commission. Also, the Chief Justice David Kenani Maraga will be remembered for a number of changes that he brought into the judiciary. The most outstanding one is the digitization process of the judiciary, whereby he launched the e-filing system, whereby every police, every lawyer, every director of public prosecution has to log in, has to register, and thereafter log in into the portal if they are to access any judicial services, which came in handy during this early in 2020 when the COVID-19 pandemic hit the country, whereby most court hearings and processes went virtual. These are just some of the highlights of the Chief Justice David Maraga Kenani, as today is his final day in office, as the Supreme Court of Kenya is holding a ceremony, or rather a tribute, in honor of the Chief Justice. We'll be bringing you the coverage of the proceedings that will be happening here at the Supreme Court of Kenya. Back to you, Jane.
For that, remember that link is set to come in not too long. The official handing over of the CJ, that is Chief Justice Maraga, who is now officially retiring. And just from what Sarafina has told us, just looking at even what the social media has to say in regards to Maraga, he has been termed as one of the most trailblazing Chief Justice that we have had the pleasure of having in our country. Remember, the hashtag that we are using is Good Morning Kenya on Twitter. We will be bringing that live proceeding as and when it starts, but we are here to just keep you up to date in regards to his achievements so far since he took office back in 2016 from the then predecessor Willie Mutunga. He is the 14th Chief Justice that we have had as a country and the second under the 2010 Constitution. So we'll be bringing you that live coverage as and when it officially kick-starts. So keep it here to catch up with that and so much more in regards to what will be happening today in Kenya and the world over. So right now we want to switch back to the conversation that we had prepared for you on our Family Check segment for today. As mentioned earlier on, today we're going to be having a conversation mostly revolving around our children and the fact that they are back to school. But are we really paying attention to the psychological well-being of these children that we have sent to school? These children that the government wants each and every one of them back to school, and the parents who still continue to stay with their children at home, they risk being arrested for keeping these kids at home. But how are these children doing? We have children who are coming from extremely hard situations at home, expected to go back to class and pick up from where they left off. What are we doing? What are we doing as parents and teachers to help them transition better from this almost 10-month break? To help us with this conversation this morning, I have two guests with me. I'll start with the lady to my extreme left. She's not a new face. We've had her before. She is Josephine Moirore, who is a counseling psychologist. Karibu sana, Josephine.
Thank you very much.
Always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much.
And closest to me, we also have Julius Gitari, who also is a counseling psychologist. Karibu sana, Julius.
Thank you, Jean.
Glad you are with us this morning.
Yes.
Now remember, we welcome you to be part of this conversation. Do share with us your thoughts, any questions or any comments or clarifications that you may be needing from this conversation using the hashtag Good Morning Kenya on Twitter. Our official station handle never changes. It is at KBC Channel 1. My handle is at Jane Wamboi. I will be addressing your questions and comments and any feedback that you may be sending through in not too long. But let me start with you, Julius. We are coming from a period where children have been at home and they had gotten used to that space. And now they have been taken back to school. In as much as we were preparing them to go back to school, do you really think that this whole situation of children going back to school and interacting with the rest of the students is something that they were really prepared for, psychologically speaking, in general terms?
Thank you, Jean. The issue about going back to school is not, again, the children are prepared, but now the challenge is the how of the preparation. Children are not prepared because of the how. The how of the preparation is a challenge because these parents, some of them, they are not professionals.
Yes.
They are just general parents who are parented without even any formal training of parenting and even helping the children to transition. And also that mental preparation that now you have to leave your comfort zone. I go back to school. It does not be done because there are no professionals that were released either by the government.
Yes.
Or even the professionals would not be able to visit all the families and prepare the children back to school. So what is there is that there is the issue is there has been a lot of resistance, and the transiting there because of lack of preparation, there has been a lot of resistance. So they are there as a way of just obeying the routine, but in the real sense, mentally, psychologically, they are not prepared. They are there they are presenting themselves as a ritual, but in the real sense, they have not dealt with the baggages of the transition.
Okay.
And that's the most critical area that needs to be done. Even though they are back to school, I think there's an opportunity to get time to prepare them so that they can settle in school and be able to proceed with what is expected of them in school.
All right. Josephine, let me come to you. Do you think as parents we are a bit presumptuous, knowingly or unknowingly, that our children are okay, they're back to school? I mean, they were looking forward to going back to school, they miss their classmates, they miss the whole school environment. But do you think we are presumptuous in just thinking they're okay going back to school, they don't have any stresses?
Basically, parents are not okay. Likewise, the children are not okay. Losing the whole year without going to school, staying in the house, doing nothing, because I can say they were doing nothing, staying in the house, in the compound they are not used to, with the people they were not used to. It is very hard for even parents to handle. The first thing, when the children were sent back home by the government and they were so told they are not going back to school, the parents were in a shock. They started asking, what are we going to do now with these children? If at all they come for 1 month and we get stressed, what about when we don't know where they are going back to school?
Yes.
So it is not okay for the parents, because with the parents, they prepare themselves with a year, the whole year. They say that when the children go back to school, we give ourselves 3 months. They come back. They live with their children. Some are going back to work. They go to work every other day. So when they're with their children the whole time, morning, lunchtime, and in the evening, some they go to work and come back in the evening. It has not been an easy thing.
Yes.
Now our children are taken back to school. Our children are confused. They don't know where they are. They don't know where they are. Out, they are back to school. They just find it's fun to wear a uniform and be back in school. But I'm very sure they are not sure with what they are doing.
Okay.
These children need a lot of counseling. And with the teachers also.
Yes.
We want people to counsel teachers first.
Yeah.
Before they come to parents and the children.
Right. Now, I want us to look at some of these spaces that these children are coming from and expected to go back to school. I mean, as a directive by the government, all children are expected to go back to school. And this is also in line with the 100% transition of school-going children. Now, I want us to start by just understanding the spaces that some of these children are coming from. Now, during this pandemic, we have seen a rapid sharp increase in the number of sexual cases that sexual violence cases that have been reported, and more so involving children. Now let's take, for example, a child who's coming from such a space, a home that they were sexually abused and expected to go back to class and move on as if everything is okay. How is this, what is the state of this child's mental well-being? Let me start with you, Julius.
Thank you, Jean. Now, trauma, we normally say trauma is a wound or an injury, which can either be physical, because like now the sexual abuse, which was done physically, that's a physical trauma.
Yes.
Or a psychological injury as a result of extreme emotional assault. Now, this child has experienced both physical trauma and psychological trauma. They cannot be the same again. They are psychologically very sick.
Yes.
And therefore, a sick person cannot be prepared for academic work. At the same time, there's been this kind of, you're going to school, you're not going to school, you're not going to school, you're not going to school, the way the communication has been done. Also, that dimension of the communication caused another trauma. At the same time, some of these children, their parents lost their jobs.
Yes.
So parents are processing their losses, the loss of job, and they have not digested. The child has lost probably their virginity, their status quo, and everything. They cannot be mentally prepared and psychologically prepared to go back to school. Yet at their stage, developmentally, they are not physically and psychologically mature to make even their decisions and start by them. So critical thing is intervention, first of all, need to be done to treat these children before we can say that now we can continue with the syllabus.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, still in line with that aspect of sexual abuse, we have also seen so many young girls who have fallen pregnant, and most of them as a result of this sexual abuse that they may have experienced, or other reasons that may be. But now we also find these same girls are also expected to go back to school. I mean, looking at the back page of the Daily Nation this morning, a county like Nandi, it has reported 10,000 girls who fell pregnant during this COVID break, and they are all expected to go to school. Now, going back to that environment, how are they supposed to cope with that environment and the fact that they are expectant at a very young age? Josephine?
For sure, Jane, this is a situation whereby the government would have thought first of these children before they say it's a must, because these are mothers. They have become mothers. Unwanted pregnancy. They were not willing. They were not going for children.
Yes.
But the babies came. Or they are very heavy. They are very pregnant. This child is a child carrying a child. She's thinking like a child, and here you tell her she's going back to school.
Yes.
One thing, she's in great fear that when she goes back to school, her peers will start laughing at her. Nobody will understand. Nobody will understand her. She has no shoulder to lean on, because the teachers now are busy learning to see what they can do with the syllabus, or where they can start and move on with the school.
Yes.
Now these children are here. They are very traumatized. They are very sick. They could not be told, those people, even those people who got pregnant, must go back to school. There could be another thing, another good way of addressing this and taking them back to school. Because we mothers, we know when we become pregnant, we have so many challenges. We go through so much. Even men don't understand what we go through. So you tell a child who is pregnant to go in the class, or a child who has left a child at home to go in the class, she has nothing to concentrate. She has nothing to do. She's just there for fun. You see her in the class, but her mind is far away from that class. She's sick. According to me, I would say the government should review this thing of taking pregnant girls or mothers back to school. They should look for another way of handling them. Maybe they give them like an year, and then they say, all these girls, we want them back to school maybe towards the end of the year. Only those who will be doing the year exams, because now they be prepared, they be cautioned, they be reminded about the class, because they have forgotten about the class. Now all their concentration is on their conditions. So to me, I would ask the government to review it again.
Okay.
It's so hard.
Now, let me come to you, Julia, still on the same breath about, children who are expectant and they are told to go back to school.
Yes.
We're seeing different counties have different approaches. We have seen some schools even have given examples here where they're saying they are offering support to expectant young girls. They are setting up breastfeeding stations within the schools. They are allowing dietary special diets for some of these young girls, and they are just trying to adjust to these young girls to accommodate them in school. Is this helpful? And to what extent?
My take. First, actually, I had not got an opportunity to see the newspaper. It's really shocking to have that kind of a number. And I want to begin by saying, actually, every time human life is threatened, every time there is a threat in human life, the most obvious behavior that is expected is human beings or living things. They tend to become very sexual. So, as much as it's shocking because of whatever happened, the outcome of this from a psychological dimension, when life is threatened, creatures or living things tend to become very sexual as a way of transmitting the generation to avoid being extinct. So whatever is happening is something which is from a psychological, which can be understood from a psychological dimension, though it looks very horrible, very traumatizing because now of the target audience. However, let me say that I know the government has pressure because of the interaction in the academic calendar.
Yes.
The government had the pressure on that, and therefore it really want to compensate for the lost time and ensure that things are in perspective again, and that we can be able to resume the normal academic calendar. But now things like those have happened. So my request was if the government could have at least created the first 2 weeks in school for psychosocial support to be provided for these children for the purpose of helping them to adjust. And if it is not possible because of the Ministry of Health directive to visit those schools, then the media like KBC, this is the Good Morning Kenya, or other media houses could have been used to be able to air a program whereby professionals are brought on board to be able now to communicate about what is supposed to be done for both teachers and the parents, because even some teachers have died. Now, let me revisit now the issue about now these children. Now, first of all, this child who has become pregnant is going to be told to go back to school. Actually, those institutions are doing is good. However, it needs also a psychological backup, because the issue about whatever they are doing, will they be able to sustain it? Because that's a short-term goal, which is a more of psychological first thing they are trying to do by offering psychosocial dimension. However, it is not sustainable because of the financial constraint again pertaining to that.
Yeah.
Then these children again, now they are also in a state of dilemma. Because am I a parent? Am I a student? So they are in a state of dilemma, which require now quick intervention to assist them out now at least to download those baggages so that they can now be prepared psychologically for academic progress.
I like that term, psychological first aid.
Yes.
How long can we sustain some of these measures that are being put in place by different schools across the country? We even have a school in Kisii County where they're saying they've partnered with a local hospital to give a specialized attention to pregnant students. Now, we'll just wait to see how this plays out and how long it will actually hold. But now coming to still looking at these children, now let's focus on the boys. Reports are also coming out that so many boys have failed to report back to school. Why? Because most of them picked up odd jobs during this time that they were at home, and arguably so to provide for their family. And right now they're weighing the options. Do I keep working and earning this 500, 600 bob I earn every day, or leave that, go back to school and suffer the way I used to before this? When a child has to make this decision, let me start with you, Josephine. Is it even fair for a child to be in such a situation?
No, it's so much unfair, Jane. To see a child going to the Mjengo areas or doing casual jobs to feed the family. It is not a child's responsibility to feed the family. It is a child's responsibility to go to school. Now the child is at home doing nothing, and there is a job behind there, and when he goes to ask for the job he is given, he feels comfortable. So maybe for the last 6 months or 3 months or 2 months, this child has been having some money. He has been having some little cash here and there.
Yeah.
And then here you come and tell him, now you are going back to school, empty pocket, without money, and now you are going to learn. It is a tricky game here to convince a child who was earning a living to go back to class. To tell him now you are going to sit down, wait for 6-8 hours from morning to June, you go back home and eat from your mother. I've been living in a place where every other morning I leave at my work at 6 to 6:30, and you'll find small boys with big bags carrying things to go to they call it woi. They collect metals, plastics, and they take to Pima there. So when you come to tell such a child, now it's time to go back to school.
It's a hard decision that they have to make.
But what I can say, there are so many councillors in this Republic of Kenya. They can be called and be asked to visit these schools. They be given job to do. Some have nothing to do. They only talk when they are asked to talk. They be requested to visit the schools. The government facilitate for them because teachers alone can't do anything.
Allow me to interject at that particular point. We'll be getting back to just see some of the potential solutions that lay inside for some of these children, because they have an argument that holds water.
Yes.
So how can we be able to help them and also help them get back to school? We take a break. We'll be right back with more of Good Morning Kenya. Do keep talking to us using the hashtag Good Morning Kenya on Twitter.
Enda pale kwa Palune. Wakenya. Kari ndio hii. Oh, sorry, kifungu ndio hii kari. Ni furaha ile niko nayo. Muzijali kete. Wacha tupeane mali ya wenyewe.
Ni vizuri tupe watu vitu zao.
Kuja uchukue mali yako. Kuja uchukue mali yako. Hiyo ndio shamra shamra.
Hiyo ndio shamra shamra. ya quick bid.
Umeona? Umeamini?
Nimeamini kabisa.
Hii inaitwa nini?
Hii inaitwa kifungu.
Na hii inaitwa nini?
Toyota Probo.
Toyota Pro. Mpatie kifungu hiyo original.
Shika ingine.
Ndio
Ndio ya kuendesha.
Onesha.
Na wewe unaitwa nani?
Naitwa Steven.
Steven nani?
Kahuho.
Nakwambia uliwekelea bid ya ngapi brother?
1772 peke yake.
We. Na ndio amejishindia Pro Box. Sasa hii Pro Box inakusaidia aje?
Itakuwa inanisaidia kazi yangu ya kuuza matunda.
Unaambia je watu wa kwenye nyumbani ambao watakuona na hii?
Wote wacheze na quick bid.
Ukweli. Ni ukweli.
Kabisa.
Sasa tufanyie vizuri. Ingia upate mizigo yako bana. Ingia utoshee ukae usikie. Inakutosha sawa? Sisi tulikwambia ni aje? Bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini. Bidhaa bora kwenye bei ya chini.
Jiunga na QuickBid ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bid yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16. Kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bid yako pia kwenye www.quickbid.co.ke. Kumbuka, bid ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio ununua. QuickBid, bidhaa bora.
The battle. Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
But I'm hoping to see you on Monday and make plans to meet again so we could talk. I need to let you know what I feel for you.
Oh, darling. I cannot wait any longer to see you again. To hold you again. And to once again show you that I love you. I hope that you'll be here for my birthday, Juliana.
Cons, I don't think we should get married.
Why are you telling me this right now, Max?
There's another woman in my life.
You realize what?
The love that I feel for you.
Welcome back. Glad you are still with us. This is Good Morning Kenya, and you are right in time in case you're just joining us to continue with this discussion that we had started earlier on our Family Check segment, just looking at the psychological well-being of our children as they continue to adjust to this back-to-school space that we are in. We appreciate you for talking to us thus far, and just looking at what you have said in regards to this particular conversation. We have William Mwamburi saying that maboys wamejua utamu ya kutafuta pesa na ukifuatilia familia inaishi maisha ya hand to mouth. Inaleta hali hiyo, consequently most of them having to work from a very young age. Said saying hatujui tutapata wapi school fees, consequently resulting to this. Now Robert Jones saying boy child is an endangered species. Now, I want to come back to you, Julius. We have two guests with us in studio this morning, Julius and Josephine, both of whom are counseling psychologists. And let me start with you, Julius. The fact that a young boy has to choose between going to school and working to provide for the family. What are your thoughts?
A young child making a decision, that decision, according to their mental development, they cannot make a rational decision. That's a very, very irrational decision. And because it is irrational, it has got a number of consequences in it. And actually, remember that nature does not abhor a vacuum. Therefore, this child is only trying to bring a dysfunctional law in the family by now deciding not to go to school, but now do this kind of manual work here to earn a living, which communicates about how dysfunctional that family is. So that decision is not rational, and that's why the government is coming in and trying now to say that no, you are not yet physically and psychologically mature to make rational decisions. Please go back to school. That's why you can be able to be developed well and be able now to know how to shoulder the responsibility at the right time. So it's wrong timing and they're doing the wrong thing when at the right time. Yes.
But is it really doing the wrong thing given they could be the only form of support for their family? Because in most cases you find there are children whose parents are not, for one reason or the other, not able to comfortably provide for the family and these children when the circumstances seems to push them to such.
Now, I will post the question back to you. Kenyans lost jobs.
Yes.
Did any Kenyan die because of lack of a job? Life is about alternatives. So those parents should not say that the only way of getting something for the child is by labeling the child. Actually, according to the Children's Act, if you look at the Kenyan Constitution, that's a child abuse. We have abused their rights by doing so. So these parents, they should not reach a state of learned helplessness that there's nothing that can happen to me. My grab is known, there's nothing I can do. They have got a lot of potential within themselves. We go back to the parents. It is them who have neglected their responsibility. This child didn't make an application to be born. The child was born. And therefore, because the child was born, they knew why they wanted this child. They should not expose the child to all these kind of traumas and torture. So parents need to look inside themselves and see the potential in them, because life is about alternatives. Yes, if we cannot go to the go on the right, we can keep on the left. Life is about alternatives. The same way there is day and night. People lost jobs, but they adjusted very fast. Sorry. They're able to adjust very fast, and they've been able to cope with this. Even these parents who are now exposing the child when the child is supposed to be watching this channel and enjoying those programs that the minister, the KSD has been bringing, they are now being told to go to do the labor to earn a living. It is parents' negligence. Parents need to look back to themselves and look for an alternative way of getting something to be able to support this child. The child at that tender age, they require their support and encouragement and the counsel from the parents.
All right.
Yes.
Now, another aspect I'd like for us to touch on, and it might seem as a non-issue for most, but looking at from a child's point of view, issues to do with growth spurts. During this time, kids have grown, and they have grown exponentially. And I'm speaking as a parent. Now, for some of them going back to school, they go back to school and a teacher casually just comments about their body, telling them, "Eh, umekuwa mkubwa sana. Kwani ulikuwa unakula nini?" And they might not really understand what some of these words might mean for these children. As light an issue as it might be considered, from a child's point of thinking, is it safe to just, how safe is it to just talk about their growth and teach them to appreciate themselves as we usher them back to school? Let me start with you, Josephine.
There is one thing people make great mistake, commenting and comparing. It is always good to talk good things for the fat people. Because if your child has added weight, there is nothing you can do in a day for the child to slim. What you do is talk good things. How fat people are, they look good, they wear nice clothes. When you are in that short, you are looking good. When you are in that big dress, you are looking, you compliment, you talk, you always be positive. Don't be negative. The moment you talk, you tell a girl, "Oh, you look fat," she'll be mad, she'll start withdrawing, she'll
being very conscious of themselves.
Yeah, she'll feel now she's in the wrong place. We should talk good things when they add weight. And when they become small, we appreciate them. We say, "Hey, now you are looking good in that short." Before you are a bit big. But don't comment bad things. When you talk about bad things about fat people, these children will see fat people are bad. But when you talk nice things, and you stop comparing, don't compare this person with another one. Don't say, you would have looked better if you are like this size. No. Talk good things. Let this child feel, even if I've added some weight, it's okay. It's well. It's not a bad thing by the end of the day. It shows my mom knows how to cook. I know how to eat well. But if you blast them, oh my God, you'll kill their morals. They'll withdraw. They start having withdrawal. And then saying, now I've added weight, I look like a pum-pum. It is always good, parents, the society, to speak good things about the situation so that they may accept the way they look like. Even if they are so big, remind them that after you work hard, now you know you're in class, I know you are going to work hard, you'll put a lot of effort in your books and you won't have time to eat those junks you are eating at home. So don't discourage them. Don't talk ill fate about big person becoming big. Even if you see a big person, don't say, yeah, you see that person is, just say, speak something nice. Be positive. Even teachers, be positive. Even if you see many changes, be very positive. People in the society speak positive things. Even if when you see things are not working good, be positive for this child not to have that low esteem.
All right. I also like to get your thoughts in regards to this issue, Julius. How we talk to our children about their physical appearances as they go back to school, as much as they may have changed.
Thank you, boy. I look at it from two dimensions. First of all, the fact that they were told to leave school and go home, that one caused stress. So these are exponential growth can be as a result of stress, and especially for the ladies. When they are stressed, they tend to take a lot of junk food, and then this will make their body to start now growing exponentially, and this distort their body image seriously. On the other hand, also, especially at the onset of the adolescence, there is the growth hormones that are released because of the growth spurt. So that also has got an element of now making somebody to grow that way, and that's why they require psychological preparation before that. Before then. Then again, we are talking about now genetic composition. Our genetic composition. There are some children who, because of their genetic makeup, they will be obese by virtue of the gene composition in their body, obesity. And then, of course, the issue about bulimia and anorexia nervosa. But now, capturing this issue about now, like actually, I'm also having children. Like my small boy, actually, we had to change his uniform because they could not fit the school uniform. We had to buy new ones as was going back to school. Now, when they grow exponentially and then we make comments, we affect them in 4 dimensions. We affect their body image in a negative way, we affect their self-image in a negative way, we affect their self-esteem in a negative way, and we kill their goals or the ideal self in a very, very negative way. Because comments are labels, and the labels cause a lot of pain. Labeling is a very dangerous issue because it causes pain. People really suffer because they have been labeled. And so you have called me mama, and I know I'm a student. So that labeling causes a lot of pain because it works on the ideas they have about themselves. So I thought I'm a student. Now I've discovered today I'm a mother. So it distorts their self-concept completely, and therefore most important thing is to realign the distorted self-concept. And maybe let me focus on maybe let me make a comment on the adolescents.
Yes.
To the adolescents, the body is the most important thing they have on this earth. It is very important for them. And therefore, this body, which is almost everything to them, any comment that is made by an adult or a significant person must always be in regard to affirming them, not devalidating them. They need a lot of praise, they need a lot of compliments for them to be able now to release their psychological potential. But now when they start now making negative comments and becoming sarcastic with you, then definitely I distort your self-concept, and when I distort your self-concept, it lowers your self-esteem. Yeah. Even if you are born a genius, your grade will go down. It lowers your ideal self, and therefore, because who you wanted to be. Now when it is shut, you are likely to commit suicide. It affects their self-image, so that they see themselves that they are very ugly. Yet they are the same people whom we told yesterday, on Sunday, you are fearful and not afraid men. Now today they see themselves, they are the most ugly, they are more ugly than the devil in hell. So that now affects them, and it has got the ripple effect of even making them to hurt themselves, to develop in a state of psychological impoveration. Yes. So we should be very careful with what we say to our children. Whatever is coming from your mouth has a lot to do with the idea about me. All right. Are these ideas building or destroying me? Do not body shame your child. Sure. Whether they may have gained or lost weight during this time that they were at home, you are the first source of information and reassurance and reaffirmation that they need as a parent and even as a teacher at school. So let us be careful with the comments that we are making about our children's bodies. We might think they're very young, but trust me, some of the things that we say, they take to heart. Now, as we draw the conversation to a close, another aspect that I'd like for us to talk about, just understand the consequences that our children could be experiencing, is issues to do with the academics. I've been seeing on social media so many parents just trying to check on other parents how their children have reported back to school. And I came across a tweet of a parent saying that they are in utter shock because their child has forgotten even how to write. And they are in grade 2, formerly known as standard 2. Now, let's think of the child in this situation. They're going back to school, they don't even remember how to write. And they are expected to pick up from where they left because they're going back to term 2. How do we take care of this child who is very conscious about themselves? They are maybe even thinking, Sasa, if my friends don't know that I've forgotten how to write, what will they think of me? What will teacher think of me? How do we take care of such a child? Let me start with you, Josephine.
Now, this is where now the responsibility of parents comes in. Now that our children, they are gone back to school. When they come back home, we should start checking on writings, handwritings, see how they are writing. You can ask a child now, you be the next teacher. You check, how is my child performing in the class? How is he back or is she back to the normal? You start checking what she's doing. You can sit with your child and ask your child, what is affecting you? What do you think you're not doing better? Which area is affecting you? Why do you think you're not writing well? The child, or even you know, she has stayed so long without writing even that name. Yeah. She has stayed so long even without doing mathematics or anything of the sort. So it is our parents now, it's our work to sit down now with the children. Let our children now become our friends. When they come back from school, let us sit with them in the house. Let us check their books. Let us look along. Now, these days, I don't think there are parents who are not learned. So many parents are learned. They know how even to sign those books. Can we sit down with our children now and look now? You are also a psychologist of your child. You know what she likes most, what she don't like. You know the child who knows how to learn and the one who is a slow learner. I want to ask parents to start, before you render everything to the teacher, can you also be your child's teacher? Because if we release everything to the teacher will only tackle what she can afford. And then you'll start complaining, these teachers are not checking what our children are doing. They are not even writing their names, what kind of the teacher we have. No, it is now our responsibility to go back on the drawing board and sit with the children and also start teaching them little by little. Give her or him the former books. The ones she started writing the name. If you discover there is a problem, she will go through. She will remember. Because a small mind, fresh mind, want only to be reminded to do something. The immediately you give him the child old books, like now the baby class, as she comes to the grade 2, the child will definitely remember what she was doing. But if you start blame game, you'll have problem.
All
The
right.
child will lost in between. It is also good to remind the children slowly. And we parents, I don't talk much about the parents. Let us be concerned with our children. Let us not be so busy to our children. Let us be there for them. Let us remind them, take them step by step. Now they are running again. Now you take them a step a day, a step tomorrow, a step another one, so that you catch up with the teacher. So that they catch up, they also catch up with you. There are some things they are supposed to be done in school. Now they used to do it them at home. You also have to catch up even yourself. You say now this is not done, this one is done, and then within a very short time, children will come back. They are easy to get, they are easy to catch, they are easy to learn.
Okay.
Now if you take me back to school, my dear, you'll take ages.
Let me come to you, Julia, still on the same aspect of children who may have regressed academically. How do we help them in a way that will not affect their mental well-being and give them much trouble when it comes to trying to catch up or just get back to where they were?
Thank you. I want first of all to appreciate the law the media spread during the 10 months COVID because you transferred the school timetable back at home. Congratulations as a media houses, because actually any parents saying that their children have regressed, there is a challenge there, because the media houses really spent much of they had to do a lot of adjustment to be able to assist us as parents. So I want to say the fact that now the government of Kenya also did a very noble thing to tell us to go back home. The fact that I was at home. Remember we have two types of education. We have got the formal and the informal education.
Yes.
Informal is supposed to take place at home. And that's why at the school, the teacher writes on the children's book, please do your homework. It's not the child who is being told to do the homework. It is the parent who is being to do the homework. But when that instruction reaches home, the parents take sticks and the slippers and the pipes. And start now telling the children, do you see what are you seeing what the teacher said? The teacher didn't say, the teacher wrote, please do your homework. And that is a communication for the parents, not for the child. At that tender age, the child cannot be able to understand this grammar. Communication, the teacher is saying, I was parenting your child from morning up to evening. From now, at night, continue the parenting law. Therefore, support your child to do the homework. Now the parents are not working, they are at home, doing other now home chores and doing the adjustment to the family. These parents now are supposed to take over the role of now taking care of the children and they having a timetable back at home. When to play, when to enjoy leisure, and when to be on books. So there's a gap there that the parents let to happen. Because remember, these children, their brain is really very fresh and is ready to consume this content. So what happens is that there's something we call decay theory. The decay theory says that anything you are not paying attention to, definitely it will disappear. So because the parents never focus on supporting the academic, performing their children to continue with the revision work and following what now the media was doing, bringing the lessons back at home, and what KSD was doing, then definitely children are forgot. So they are justified to have forgotten. Now what is supposed to be done, because now problem has already set in.
Very briefly as we wind up.
Yes. What's supposed to be done is now tender love and care is required on both sides, from the side of the parents and from the side of the teachers. Let's not the parents justify themselves. Let them know that they have made a mistake, apologize, and they bridge the gap. Teachers, likewise, should not really scold our children. They should not spank them. Let them be sensitive. Let them be caring. And if they request the parents, even if it is a financial support, to be able to bridge the gap and create an extra minute to support this child to catch up.
All right. So let us come together.
Yes.
Both as parents and teachers and any other relevant stakeholder in the conversation about helping our children adjust back to this new norm at school, and especially for those who may have regressed in terms of their academics. Don't be the first one to castigate your child for having forgotten to do something that we may consider as simple as writing. So that brings us to a close of this particular conversation, just trying to understand the psychological well-being of our children, how they are doing, what is expected of them, and how they are adjusting to these new times. I mean, as parents, we tend to think that what is stressing our children? They have reason to be stressed, but really we need to pay attention to what they are doing and just listen to some of those nonverbal cues that could be pointing to stresses in our children's life, especially now that they're going back to school, still in the process of going back to school from this 10-month break. So we'll be continuing with this conversation as we move on with the year to just see the progress that our children have made as they get back to this new norm. But for now, we want to call it a program. Thank you so much for staying with us. William Mwamburi, always tuned in from Watamu. We thoroughly appreciate you for always making time to be with us here on Good Morning Kenya. Captain Said, thank you so much. Savi Timbi, we appreciate you for always tuning in. Robert Johns, we also have Brian Jakababa watching from Cabernet Baringo. Thank you so much for staying with us. Savimbi, thank you so much for being part of Good Morning Kenya today. Bishop, join us again tomorrow morning right here for another fantastic edition of Good Morning Kenya. On behalf of the crew and our guest in studio this morning, that is Julius Gatari and Josephine Moirori, both of whom are counseling psychologists. We wish you a lovely day. God bless. Stay safe. See you tomorrow.
Yet another exciting edition of Cover Girl Looks with me, Christine Korea. Most brides want to look perfect on their wedding day, but before the D-Day, you have to go through different trials of hair, makeup, and finding the perfect dress